to a U.S. envoy after the U.S. reiterated that it would not attend the summit in Johannesburg. Headlines at 6:30 for SFM News. I'm Dino Motau.
Sports headlines. Rugby. Rassie Rasmus is reloading the big guns as the Boks chase the Dublin breakthrough. And in soccer news, Mamelodi Sundowns plot the perfect start in their CAF Champions League push for continental glory. We'll have the details just before 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. A busy start to Gauteng highways. One is a crash on the Mike 1 North, just up by Jan Smuts Avenue. So if you're moving up from the Braamfontein side, you come through the Crown on your way through to Parktown. There's a very heavy backlog there. Also, a collision on the N3 North at Van Buren, and that's already pushed a queue back as far as Cement Factory. Also, the R59 going north has a crash scene just around the Reading interchange. So watch for some delays as you turn off South Rand Road into that one. Also, just keep an eye ahead for a convoy closure today. We saw it yesterday. We'll see it again today as dignitaries and VIPs arrive into Lanseria, into Waterkloof and OR Tambo. They need to be escorted into accommodation areas around Sandton, Melrose and Rosebank, and that closes all the highways for 30 to 40 minutes at a time. It was a bad day yesterday. Likely to see it again today. Looking okay. Key Ridge and Cliffdale, no major problems on your way to Durban or Pietermaritzburg. And Cape Town, just awaiting the opening of the Huguenot Tunnel. It should be any moment if it hasn't already. 6 a.m. was the closure time. Maybe if you travel a little bit later, you'll be sure of getting through the tunnel instead of diverting over to Toys Kloof. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Good morning, John Gericke in for Tulas. It is the Morning Brief. It's a Friday, the 21st of November already. It's almost Christmas. Welcome to the show. Let me tell you what's coming up in this half hour, and I'm looking forward to this. Big worries in Gaza again. Israeli strikes killing 25 Palestinians there. We're going to get an update on what's happening there. Tensions about that ceasefire. Which is strange that there's a ceasefire, but there are still Israeli strikes. So we'll get an update on what's happening there. An interview that we couldn't get to yesterday, this story about gender-based violence and what's happening in schools, sexual misconduct cases in South African schools. We threw forward to it yesterday, and unfortunately we couldn't fit that in. 176 teachers found guilty of sexual misconduct from 21 to 25. So we're going to get that in this hour. Then yesterday, remember we spoke about GEMS, the government medical aid. Well, Education Union of South Africa has intensified its call for the government just to scrap the GEMS medical scheme. So we're going to hear from Simpiwe Mpungose, the Secretary General of the Educators Union of South Africa today. And that was after GEMS announced that their rates are going up by just short of 10%. You heard that interview yesterday, but let's hear some reaction from that today. Just after 7, our regular update on what's happening in the Madlanga Commission, some scandals there. And then later on in the show, the G20 summit is making big headlines, not only here, but around the world as well. There's a number of issues to talk about. There's the empty chair. There's the diplomats that are going to be coming. We're going to talk to John Stremlau and find out exactly what that means. Then big news yesterday, our interest rates are down a little bit, 25 basis points. It's not a lot, but it's something. We're going to talk to a head of business development at Moore Infinity and find out what that means for us. There was speculation was going to happen, so I think the economists are all sort of budgeting for that. What does it mean for us? What does it mean for the economy? What does it mean for inflation? What does it mean for us for Christmas? Maybe we have a little bit more money over the holidays. More on the G20, and then we're going to finish off with a positive note. It's HuFest comes on Sunday, the 30th of November. Celebration of music, heritage, and creativity at the Nirox Sculpture Park, celebrating the life of iconic Bra Hugh Masekela. Looking forward to that. Are we gonna play a Hugh Masekela song? I think we're gonna squeeze in some Hugh Masekela. So that's the show. It's a busy show. As always, phone lines open 086 000 2032. You can send us a WhatsApp, text, or voice note on 0614 104 107.
Introducing South Africa's most affordable way to get hearing aids. At Specsavers Audiology, you can now get a pair of hearing aids from as little as 599 Rand per month. Hearing clearly shouldn't be a luxury. Enjoy life's moments from 599 Rand per month. Test your hearing today and join the conversation with Specsavers Audiology. T's and C's apply.
Steadies understands that victory in their own backyard is highly important before the going gets tough on foreign soil. While the Congolese Giants want to kick off their group stage campaign on a high note. This is the CAF Confederation Cup encounter. Stellenbosch FC versus AS Otoho. This Sunday, 23 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
What's one more thing you can do for a child today? Could it be one clinic visit for their next vaccination?
Or say something that will really tickle my brain.
Maybe one healthy lunchbox snack to fuel their day.
Or say something that makes me feel good about myself.
Or one strong no to alcohol in your home.
Just one thing today could change our tomorrow. Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
Usultu does not mind visitors, provided 3 points remain in KZN. However, Swelele refused to travel to Durban as tourists. They want nothing but victory. This is the Betway Premiership. Isekazini forever. Amazulu FC versus Swelele FC on Saturday, 22 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then on SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Don Jerica on SAFM.
12 minutes past 6. Let's get an update on what's happening. Some of the headlines with producer Melissa Buta. Melissa, morning to you.
Morning, John.
There's the big purple women's promo thing happening today, the shutdown that the women are doing. And I see President Cyril Ramaphosa making a big statement yesterday.
Yes. So Women for Change, a South African non-profit advocating for women and children's rights, has welcomed the government's renewed commitment to tackling gender-based violence and femicide following a closed meeting with ministers. President Cyril Ramaphosa's remarks at the G20 Social Summit reaffirming that gender-based violence and femicide will be a national crisis, or will be looked at rather as a national crisis. And the Women for Change has organized a symbolic national protest, which is taking place today and is known as the G20 Women's Shutdown. They are urging protesters to wear black and purple, with events planned in major cities, and virtual participation is also allowed. Participants will lie down in silence for 15 minutes, honoring the 15 women killed daily in South Africa, one of the world's most dangerous countries for women. Ramaphosa stressed that ending gender-based violence and femicide is vital for sustainable and inclusive development, as well as requires gender justice and the active involvement of men, boys, and all other South Africans. So this is going to be an interesting day, and it will be interesting to see how many people participate from the different parts of the country.
And Shepherd Bushiri's name is still making headlines.
Yes, and this time he is coming after the Hawks boss. Former Hawks head Godfrey Libya has rejected Shepherd Bushiri's claims that senior SAPS and Hawks officials tried to extort money from him to halt criminal cases. Bushiri alleged that ex-Hawks spokesperson Paul Ramoloko sought 2 million rand to set up a meeting with Libya, but Libya said the allegations are false and inconsistent, noting he wasn't even in the Hawks when the alleged extortion began. Bushiri and his wife Mary fled South Africa in 2020 while facing charges of fraud, money laundering and rape. Their extradition from Malawi collapsed in March after a court found that the process violated Malawian legal standards and their rights to a fair hearing. Bushiri now leads the Jesus Nation Church, which he claims has grown to over 2 million South African followers since he's left the country.
And what's happening with SASSA? Some fraud issues there?
So, the South African Social Security Agency is cracking down on fraud in its 370 social relief of distress, which is also known as the SRD grant, after a review exposed weaknesses in its system, including website vulnerabilities and the allowance of multiple applicants using the same phone number. Biometric checks have been conducted, and all SRD recipients have been checked, and over 250,000 beneficiaries were reviewed in the first phase, resulting in over 30,000 grants being suspended or lapsed, and over 8,000 being reduced after income verifications. SASSA also plans to focus on the second phase of child support grants, while the SRD grant has been extended to March of 2027 to allow time for broader reform and tighter fraud controls. So that is an interesting development in that regard.
Let's give me those numbers again. There were 260 beneficiaries reviewed.
Yes.
34,000 grants were suspended.
Yes, or lapsed.
That's
And
more
over
than
8,000 are reduced because they do have income that is coming in.
some back of the envelope. That's almost 15%.
Of course.
Wow.
It's quite a lot.
Wow. All right, Melissa, thank you very much.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief.
All right, let's look at your weather this morning. There are some warnings. Yellow level 1 of severe thunderstorms leading to heavy downpours, localized flooding in susceptible roads, low-lying areas and bridges, large amounts of small hail, as well as strong damaging winds expected over the northeastern parts of the Northwest Province, as well as the western parts in Limpopo. There's a fire danger warning expected over the Matsikama and the Swartland municipalities of the Western Cape, and also an advisory of very hot to extremely hot and uncomfortable conditions expected over the Kamiesberg municipality in the Northern Cape and over the West Coast district of the Western Cape. Pretoria and Johannesburg today, partly cloudy, scattered afternoon showers and thunder showers. The capital 15 to 27, Johannesburg 13 to 26. Vereeniging partly cloudy, scattered afternoon showers and thunder showers, 14 to 27. Bombella's cloudy, some scattered showers and thunder showers, 14 to 24. Polokwane much the same, 16 to 27. Mahikeng today, partly cloudy, isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers, 18 to a hot 32. Vryburg fine, it'll become partly cloudy this afternoon, 17:33. Bloemfontein fine, becoming partly cloudy, 14 to 29. Kimberley also fine, becoming partly cloudy this afternoon, 17 to 32. Abington is fine, 20 to 37. Cape Town fine and windy, a moderate to fresh southeaster. It'll become strong this afternoon, 20 to 27. George is partly cloudy with a light and variable wind. It'll become light to moderate southeaster this afternoon, 13 to 23. Gqeberha is partly cloudy, a light to moderate southwesterly wind, 16 to 23. East London's partly cloudy, a moderate to fresh southwester, 15 to 24. Durban's cloudy, isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers with a light to moderate easterly to southeaster, 16 to 25. Richards Bay, cloudy, isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers, a light to moderate easter to southeaster, 16 to 27. Pietermaritzburg starts with some fog, otherwise it's cloudy, isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers from a low of 13 to a high of 26.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Go to the Gaza Strip on Wednesday. Israeli strikes killing 25 Palestinian, according to Gaza Hamas-run health ministry. One of the deadliest days since that ceasefire took effect 5 weeks ago. Let's talk about what's happening there with Tembisa Fakude, Director at Africa-Asia Dialogues and Global Governance Alliance. Tembisa, good morning to you. Thanks very much. Deadliest day since that ceasefire. Give us some details of what happened.
Well, Israel continues, of course. This is not the first time since the ceasefire was freed. Continued various towns in Gaza and killed people, killed, and the West Bank again. Also, and doing something similar to what it did in Gaza. So Israel isn't really interested. Then it shows some sort of rift between Benjamin and Donald. Donald continues to insist that the ceasefire hold and they're working towards ensuring that construction was the resolution that was adopted by the United Nations Council in realizing as the wish to take any. But Benjamin Netanyahu is standing and going ahead with this. Right.
What's Israel's justification for this?
There's no justification. Israel has got an appetite of killing the Palestinians, and by the way, let us remember that the oppression and the genocide did not start on the in Gaza. It has been going on since 1948, and there's a number of violations, killing of the Palestinians, incursions, and also killing and torturing of prisoners in Israeli. So there's no end game for Israel. Game, of course, is to eliminate and the land of Palestinians. I'm very clear on that. Right-wing images that led most severe. It continues to violate civil rights, particularly in the West.
As you said, the UN has endorsed Trump's Gaza peace plan. Is it just Israel that's against it, or what is Hamas saying?
Well, Hamas has always been saying positive, and I hate to be spokesperson of Hamas, but they've condemned Israel violating this fire. They've rejected all the accusations that are by and shot at their troops or what direction of whether but there is Israel that continues to violate, and they've got the power to say they're not willing to. And I think the greatest worry for many people is if you want to have better responsibility the money coming from the Arab countries, Gulf countries, why must they do so if
the argument is that the US and Israel are emphasizing Hamas's disarmament, and they refuse to do so without a Palestinian state.
Well, the Hamas is not written off ability of
right.
They are talking and looking at disarming, and the fact that they've accepted that 21 or 20% that was not it, there was a condition of government. So this is a staged ceasefire. We're at a point now where there's supposed to be a talk, a reconstruction, and then there's going to be a comment of the 20-point plan, which is agreed by Hamas and Israel, includes disarmament, and it includes shutting down of all operations. But Hamas was requested to come back very by the the reason why Hamas is back in Gaza ministering and doing the work that security, health, and others, it was a request from the Americans. Whilst there's no formation in place that will continue ministering and governing Gaza, the only organization that can responsibility is Hamas. So they're there at the moment with the agreement and the nodding of all parties involved.
It is expanding. Israel carried out strikes in southern Lebanon as well. They say they were targeting Hezbollah weapon sites. What's the latest there?
This is Benjamin Netanyahu's strategy of picking the king, because he knows that facing a lot of criticism, not only inside Israel, and Israelis to pardon Benjamin Netanyahu. But importantly, Benjamin Netanyahu is facing other cases with ICC and, of course, ICG. So he knows that his survival is based, his survival will be based on continuation of half of the wrecking inside Gaza, West Bank, Syria, and in Lebanon. He wants the war to continue. But it's important to the task force, and we'll have to face it. He's a former defense minister.
See, the BBC, not it all forms part of it. The BBC reporting that 94 Palestinian prisoners and detainees died in Israel custody in less than 2 years, according to an Israeli human rights group. So we hear about some atrocities that Hamas might be doing, but it's happening on the other side as well.
Yes, Israel is, by the way, that's delay on this is not started. The seventh, there's a number of violations. Four, I mean, over the seventh, the Israel has continued to torture and kill in. So this is not nothing new, and of course you'll expect to see what through or starting whatever over the lots as before that, and there's complaints the international community about this Israeli prison now what Israel is continuing in the pandemic is on the worst as taking the can down the road, but currently is survival is the premier of at some point the job
Mbisa Fakude, thank you very much, Director at Africa Asia Dialogues and Global Governance Analyst.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Morning, Zai. One of those lovely weekends. Test cricket and Test rugby.
What more could you want? It's a smorgasbord of action. And you know what? Action is what Rassie Erasmus is bringing to the table. And he's very excited to be pulling out all the stops. And of course, we're looking forward to it as well to bring you the excitement. And the clash against Ireland tomorrow, according to the coach, won't define the Springbok season. Despite the Boks losing 4 of their last 5 meetings, Erasmus says the margins have been razor thin and expects another tight battle in Dublin, praising Ireland's technical precision at the maul and breakdown. But Erasmus insists it's about delivering their best performance of the year and finally ending a 13-year winless run in Dublin. More rugby, the Springbok enforcer, Archie Snyman, reaches quite a huge milestone this weekend, his 50th test, and he'll do it in his Leinster backyard at the Aviva. Ruan Nokia will replace Lood de Jager. Kwagga Smith returns to the bench, and although Franco Mosta's red card was overturned, he still didn't crack the 23. Looking at some sporting news, Mamelodi Sundowns are chasing another deep Champions League run. Coach Miguel Cardoso says the opener against Limpopo has to set the tone for the entire campaign. After missing out on last season's title to Pyramids, he wants the Brazilians sharp and he wants to make a statement from match day 1.
No, I think the coach say all. Our focus always our games. We need to make our game, our idea, move the ball faster, taking the chance we create. I think we are here for this, for play and to get the 3 points and live here in South Africa. I think this is the most important.
Moving now to some other news. This time, cricket, the West Indies have recalled veteran quick Kemar Roach for their 3-test tour of New Zealand, with Shamar Joseph and Alzari Joseph out injured. 29-year-old OJ Shields earned a maiden call-up. The pitches in New Zealand will suit the seamers, and Roach's 284 test wickets will be crucial. Tennis action, Spain have advanced to the Davis Cup semi-finals after beating the Czech Republic, despite world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz withdrawing with a hamstring issue. And finally, golf, Anthony Kim fires a superb 64, moving to 11 under at the Saudi International, just 3 shots off the leader, Caleb Sarrett, with big ranking points on offer. A win could catapult Kim back into Live Golf for 2026. That's your sport. We'll be catapulted back at the top of the hour with more sport. I'm Zai Khan.
With the headlines, I'm Dino Mutaung. A very good morning. International relations analyst Oscar van Heerden says the arrival of world leaders marks a significant moment as the G20 summit is hosted in Africa for the first time. Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says on X that Ramaphosa will not hand over the G20 summit to a U.S. envoy after the U.S. reiterated that it would not attend the summit in Johannesburg. And the Desmond and Leah Tutu Legacy Foundation and the Archbishop Desmond Tutu IP Trust will close today in solidarity with Women for Change, which has urged women and the LGBTQI plus communities to show their economic power by withholding work and spending. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. We continue to see world leaders arriving into the airports, even this morning across Gauteng Airport. So just a heads up, we saw this yesterday and we'll see it again today. There'll be absolutely no notice given, closures of major highways away from those airports to get those leaders and their delegates in towards the accommodation centres, largely around sort of Sandton, Melrose and Rosebank. So as we saw yesterday, absolute chaos when those highway closures go in. You can imagine a highway, the R21 towards the airport being closed for 40 minutes and you're stuck between two off-ramps. You're not going to move. There's absolutely nowhere to go. So we would urge today, do check before you travel on the highway that works across Gauteng today, tomorrow and Sunday as well. The Mike 1 is heavily backed up from Boysons all the way up to a crash in the Parktown area. N3 has a collision at Van Buren, so delays coming up from the Germiston side on your way slowly through into that Bedfordview area. Heading into Pietermaritzburg, a breakdown between Ashburton and Market Road. Just watch for some delays there. Cape Town, very heavy pressure on the N2 passing Khayelitsha. Delays heading through towards the R300 and a crash out in Mpumalanga with stop-go controls through the busy Crocodile Gorge. That's a major construction zone as well. It's probably going to be quite nasty for a while until that scene's cleared. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM commemorates Disability Rights Awareness Month under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Democracy, Creating Strategic, Multi-Sectoral Partnerships for a Disability-Inclusive Society. SAFM supports and works tirelessly towards equity and equality for those with disabilities. Empowerment is key. Let us break the barriers and improve the quality of life for those with disabilities. Our efforts towards a better life for those with disabilities can only be impactful when we do so together. We do not tolerate any kind of discrimination. Disability Awareness Month 2025 on SAFM 104 to 107 FM nationwide, leading the conversations that move us.
The Business Update on SAFM.
28 minutes to 7, you with SAFM. Let's get the latest business news. And Ntauling Lechela. And Ntauling, I know we're talking South African money in an hour's time, so let's focus on international markets because there's that 25% basis point rate cut, which is either good or bad. We're going to find out. But what's happening in the US today?
All right, starting in the US, the long delayed US job data is finally out, and it shows that the labor market was sturdier than expected before the government shutdown froze economic reporting. Now, non-farm payrolls rose by 119,000 in September, beating forecasts of 50,000 and reversing some of the weakness seen in August, which was revised to a 4,000 job loss. But the picture is mixed as the unemployment climbed to 4.4%, the highest since 2021, while wage growth cooled to 0.2% month. Despite being backward looking, the release market, the softer wages proved alive for a possible Fed cut in September. Policymakers signaled in October they may stay on hold. Job gains were led by healthcare, hospitality, and social assistance, while transportation, warehousing, and business services posted decline.
Across the Pacific, news in Japan.
Exports in the world's fourth largest economy delivered a strong upside surprise last month. Exports there in Japan rising 3.6% on an annual basis as upbeat demand from Europe and Asia lifted shipments to the US. Exports in Asia 0.2% and 8.8% Western Europe, helping cushion 2.7% in to Washington. Auto shipments up 7.5%. Now the data lands as Tokyo navigates a diplomatic rift with China after Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's comments on Taiwan. Analysts warn the trade fallout may appear in this month's figures. Reports that China imports of Japanese seafood and that some Japanese brand stores in major cities within the base, within China that have temporarily closed. Imports in the meantime and expectedly rose 0.7%, defying forecasts of a decline and offering some relief after Japan's third quarter GDP slipped 0.2% as net exports weighed on growth.
And what's happening in the markets today?
Now, it looked like markets were on track for a strong rebound on, but faltered at the close, with U.S. stocks in negative territory. The Nasdaq taking the biggest hit in the U.S. down 2% as that AI estimate fizzled out. Trade happening here at home, precious metal prices, particularly gold, took a knock, weighing on resources, which closed 1.2% lower, resulting in a 0.1% decline in the share. Now, potential will be on the SARB, but there was a dollar, the US dollar, which was becoming stronger and stronger, and that weighing on the rand and offsetting some of the local news. Rand at 17.25 this morning on the back foot. Woven commodities, oil in the red as the US pushes for a Russia-Ukraine peace deal. Brent is trading to $61 per barrel. Asia stocks are back in negative territory. The sentiment falters. Japanese counters taking a knock despite better than expected economic.
Right, and telling Letiela, thank you very much. Like I said, local news coming up in an hour's time with that 0.25% basis point rate cut. Also, S&P upgrading local banks and insurers. Going forward to find out what all of that means.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Morning, Sipho Mantula. Hope you're well. Some elections happening in Guinea-Bissau. What are we looking forward to there?
A refreshing morning, John, and Jump Africa to the listeners. Indeed, John, as we are going to the weekend, I've been seeing, before I go to Guinea-Bissau, John, I've been seeing many lectures happening here.
Yes.
To lecture. SAFM has its own lecture lineup for this month, but also University of the Land, UNISA, John. I pick up that today, Cape Town will be having a 13th Neville Alexandra Memorial Lecture, reflecting on the legacy of a deep thinker. It will be given by Dr. Gaby Makhumula. Very interesting. He's a retired business leader. And as we think of this G20, John, we have to think deeper about the issues of the continent, the issues of South Africa, as we are hosting this major international event. So the University of the Land UNISA today will be the Neville Alexandra Memorial Lecture, John. Just to dive a bit, John, I thought this is a month of lectures, but also the elections in the African continent, like Sunday elections in Guinea-Bissau, where yesterday you will recall, I did touch briefly just on the candidates, but also what is interesting about this election, they are very contentious in the sense that President Mbalo, if he's been re-elected, will be the first sitting president to secure a second term in more than 50 years of the independence of Guinea-Bissau. You will recall also, John, that these elections, one has to have 50 plus to be a winner. But nobody has 50% who will have a runoff of the elections. I've read it yesterday. You have 12 candidates running for the president and 14 political groups, including one. Coalition are contesting for legislative elections. Normally we talk about presidential, John, we don't touch on parliamentary elections. These are very important. So we'll watch the close Guinea-Bissau, John, as you know that many elections in the continent from 2024 to 2025, most of them they've been having challenges in terms of acceptance of the results. You can look at Tanzania, we just came out of Tanzania, Cameroon. So these are the countries that are going through. So we'll Monday probably, John, have some indication what really transpired in Guinea-Bissau those elections. I've not seen many observer missions. John, I ask myself, why is it so silent and quiet in terms of its ECOWAS going, its EU going? So definitely, John, by next week, try to unmask some of these election observer missions.
I see French President Emmanuel Macron having a quick stopover at Mauritius.
Macron is in Mauritius, but you know the last stop will be in OR Tambo and Nazareth. No, John. The young Macron is moving all on. But Mauritius, what is says to the Mitterrand trip in 1993 from Mitterrand trip in Mauritius was in 1993. Again, he go to Mauritius, but he still worries about Madagascar. He's going to be engaging on issues of maritime safety, security, regional challenges, energy. But like I said, John, the last stop of the president of France will be to attend the G20 summit.
News out of Abuja, the court there has convicted a separatist leader.
John, this has been a long-standing case, but if you think of Nnamdi Kanu, he was a protester, man. You know, this guy, he was charged for many years. If you look at the conflict of the Biafra in Nigeria, but the court yesterday are saying that there's evidence that the indigenous people of Biafra, they've been inciting violence, and that they say he was preparing for terrorism in that country. So he was broadcasting from Radio Biafra in 2009 from London to Nigeria. So he's been found guilty for those charges. But also the court in Nigeria have been treating Nnamdi Kanu as if he's a real terrorist, when actually he's been raising long-standing issues that country since the late 1960s. But it means the freedom of expression and the journalists mostly in those countries, and political activism not really accommodated in some of our African countries, including.
Tanzania's Independent Commission of Inquiry has some tasks. There's a big task they've got ahead of them. Tell us about this.
John, the post-electoral violence have pushed President Samia Suluhu Hassan to establish the Independent Commission of the Inquiry. So it says that these colossal tasks, those colossal tasks, John, say, is to look at the real causes of the incident, know what exactly the root problem was, exactly where the youth were protesting, what they were demanding. But she's also waiting for this Commission of Inquiry, John, to give the government some clear recommendations to say where to, because here you had a challenge of the Electoral Commission, political parties, protesters out there, and as well as those who are not allowed to can participate. As you know, this commission has been given 3 months, John. It will depend in terms of the volume of evidence that will be given to this commission. We will be an interim commission, considering that the government has also been concealing information about people who have lost their lives. They have not allowed the ICC investigators to go in. But the President Samia Suluhu is still extending his hand of reconciliation, John. As you know, John, many commissions in African countries, sometimes they're just a mere ceremonial window dressing. They don't go into they don't need the part of the problem sometimes. Sometimes just satisfy the public outcry and the international community. We need to maybe decommission commissions.
And what's in your archives today?
I'm coming very clear with those, what I call the rogue American embassy and the rogue American government that refused to come to the G20. Accusing President Ramaphosa for lying, John, again. But remember, John, it's very clear. Swallow will not go and hand over the presidency to Washington. Washington must come down to Swallow. But let's look back 21 years ago, John, 1984, and there was a demonstration outside the embassy. And this was led by the American activists names like Randall Robinson, Dr. Mary Frances Berry, names like Professor Eleanor Holmes Martin. That's where the people who were talking about challenges that South Africa was going through during that, calling themselves the Free South Africa movement, discussing the human rights violation that occurred during it. Ask yourself, when Trump is saying all these things about South Africa post-94, probably he needs to go to 101 to know where does the signal comes from. So I think many South Africans are going through a brutal attack. We have been very quiet for 31 years. So now later you want to falsely accuse and say you don't attend. Don't think whether America attended one or they don't attend. They should be reminded of this guys about the sense of the ties that binds South Africa to the U.S. Don't come. We said that for a while, John. Here for 2 or 3 years, he'll be out of office, he'll be forgotten in the police office. So I don't think it will about one country not attending the G20 when we have many financial solidarities globally. Senator, spend the weekend SAFM.
Super Mantula, thank you very much. Don't forget as well, staying with the theme of great Africans and heritage, we're talking to the daughter of Hugh Masekela later on, around about 8:45. We're talking about Hugh Fest. It'll be returning on Sunday, the 30th of November, so stay close for that.
So, you switched to a different brand of sun protection. And you're still getting vitamin E and UV filters for high sun protection and a safer summer. Plus long-lasting water-resistant skin protection that's approved by skin specialists and the Cancer Association. That's because you made a clever switch to Click's Sun Protect products with Click's trusted quality and great value. When you switch, it just clicks. Switch and save only at Clicks.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
This week on BBC Primetime, watching TV could make you a winner. It's the BBC Primetime Watch and Win competition. Just tune into your BBC Primetime shows, answer a few simple questions on S3's TikTok account, and you could walk away with awesome prizes. From thrilling dramas to jaw-dropping reality shows, the more you watch, the more chances you have to win. Watch, answer, win. Only on BBC Primetime. Airs weeknights 9 to 11 p.m. on S3. Your couch just became the best seat in the game. Yes.
South Africa is taking its place on the world stage at the B20 and G20 Summits 2025. Telkom is proud to stand with the nation, building a digital future that reaches every community. Through reliable fiber, mobile and cloud networks, we're connecting families, small businesses and young people to new opportunities. We're helping drive digital public infrastructure so services are easier to access for all. Telkom, the digital backbone of South Africa's future.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Education experts are expressing deep alarm at the growing number of statutory rape and sexual misconduct cases in South African schools, calling for urgent and coordinated action from government, law enforcement agencies, just about everybody, really. Sinat Suji is the head of education rights at Section 27. Sinat, good morning to you. Give us details, just how horrific is the situation at the moment?
Good morning, John, and thank you for having me. Yes, I mean, we have, in Section 27, we've been receiving quite a few complaints, but it's also quite alarming of looking and reading what has been reported in the media. We know that there has been at least over, looking at learner pregnancies and girls between the ages of 10 and 15 last week, which was reported that at least 26 girls had fallen pregnant. The sexual violence and statutory rape is the way it's affecting many of these learners and affecting their learning and their right to basic education. And I think that we've also been hearing a lot about at last week, we attended a portfolio committee meeting where all of these departments were presenting on the rates of statutory rape, and it's so deep that we have to be quite deliberate and concerted in our efforts to combat statutory rape.
Yesterday we had a caller saying the really vulnerable, and she mentioned a deaf school, but there's also schools with disabilities seem to be part of the victims.
Sure. So the special needs schools have been quite deeply impacted and heavily impacted. They are, it's about, because of most of these learners, and mostly hospital schools, in which you have caretakers and primary givers at these schools who are committing the sexual violence. And because these learners are not, there's the power dynamic, learners are not speaking out. And it's also fear of victimization that many of these complaints are not reported.
How are people becoming teachers if they are, or is there enough vetting done of teachers and hostel houses and leaders before they get the jobs?
So that's a big question, and that's the topic of discussion for most of this year. We know that at Section 27, we've been communicating with the Department of Education since 2020. This was a plan that the department had in 2022 and 2023 that they would do that. This did not happen. In April of this year, we know that the department themselves and the minister confirmed a portfolio committee that only 19% of educators were vetted. And this was only against the National Register of Sex Offenders. And we know that there are two registers.
Mm-hmm.
And the National Child Protection Register was never on the department's agenda until last year. We at Section 27 we communicated with the department for the 2 years, which included the Department of Social Development, Department of Justice, the South Africa SAPS, and the DBE. And it's come to light that there has been no vetting or not sufficient vetting that should have happened. We had no option but to resort to litigation. And that's what we did. So in September, late September of this year, we had launched an application to ensure that all of these departments comply with their legislative obligations in terms of the Children's Act to get all of these educators and employees in the education system vetted. And these are existing educators. So what happens then is our prospective educators being vetted, not exactly. The current educators have not been vetted, and then obviously it requires future maintenance of that of vetting, because it's not that if someone is not being found to be against one of the registers now, that they have not then been or committed any sexual violence or is listed on the register 5 years from now. So what is the plan going forward?
Sina, we're really short on time. I just want to know, the president announcing yesterday that GBV is a national crisis. Will that make a difference?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one step. I think this is what we as gender activists are thinking for. And I think this requires some political will to actually implement the GBV.
Sina Tsuji, thank you very much. Head of Education Rights at Section 27.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, we warned about this. G20 leaders arriving into various airports across Gauteng. A lot of activity around OR Tambo. And it looks like we've got the first of today's convoy activities underway. R21 south at Atlas, N12 inbound at Edenvale, N3 north at Galuli. So your key lockdown routes, those highways look like they're being closed to get the leaders from OR Tambo. And then I guess up the N3 and into Sandton is probably the way they're going to do that. So those highways are under pressure. And this is just going to be repeating all day. No notice at all about the closures. They just put them in. You can sit on those highways for 20, 30, 40 minutes until the convoys move through. So we would urge you today, check before you travel. It is quite obvious looking at the real times that we look at to bring you these reports every day that those convoy closures, R21 South, N12 West, N3 North, are already in place. Just away from that, the Mike 1's heavy today from Boysons up to a crash just by Jan Smuts. The N3 inbound at Spruitview looking quite heavy as well. Delays as you line up towards the Heidelberg Road off-ramp. N1 through Midrand looks good. It is Friday. We're expecting, barring any incidents, that road to go okay. The Ashburton-Pietermaritzburg run still being held up into Pietermaritzburg. That's the N3. It's a breakdown before Market Road. Reasonably heavy backlog. And Cape Town, a crash on the N7 North at Jake Scoville at Beaufort Circle at Epping. So coming off the N2 at Langa, that's quite a heavy queue. And Mpumalanga, just a reminder of a crash at Crocodile Gorge with some stop-go controls to get you through that. There will be some extra waiting through that construction zone. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Sindisiwe Chikunga, will on the 25th of November 2025 officially launch the 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children under the theme Litsema, Men, Women, Boys and Girls, working together to end gender-based violence and femicide. Tune in to The Talking Point, coming to you live from the launch at the Gallagher Estate in Gauteng.
This November, step into a world few have ever seen. From the smallest creatures on epic adventures in Big Little Journeys, starting 2nd November, to the frozen frontiers of our planet in Frozen Planet 2, starting 23rd November. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., discover beauty, danger, and the magic of life on Earth like never before. The best in nature dockies, only on S3. S3, open up.
It's Black November at MTN. A whole month of great deals. Get a 100 gig MTN mobile internet Ruby plan, now just $319 per month for 12 months. And for just 20 Rand extra per month, add a 4G pocket router and connect up to 10 devices. Plus, get a free 10 gig startup bundle, redeemable on the MTN app. So don't miss out. Visit an MTN store or mtn.co.za now. T's and C's apply. Today, we make moves. MTN.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, started out as a passion and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief.
Get a quick update. Yesterday we spoke about GEMS and the increase, and we spoke to a union that was saying that that's unacceptable. The Educators Union of South Africa has also got involved. They've intensified their call for the government to scrap the GEMS medical scheme, saying it's a breeding ground for corruption and mismanagement. Sipiwe Mpongose is the Secretary General of the Educators Union of South Africa. Sipiwe, good morning to you. Why do you want to get rid of GEMS?
Good morning to you and the listeners. We feel that for
Sounds like that phone line's gone out. Sorry, Sipiwe, you're breaking up. One more time.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead. You were talking about the ANC?
Yeah, I'm saying in terms of the looting instruments designed by the ANC, people like they for if you remember him, these people protected a lot of money from England. And we feel that them is not representing the people it's purported to represent in the medical space, in quality medical services, who are them is against public service in all respects. The things that they've tweeting in the last 3 years shows that them is not thinking about the lives of public servants. Instead, they are starving their families because these thousands per month that they have put over the last 3 years is taken away from the means, not profit, means
Sure.
that are supposed to provide food for their families. Because remember, the salaries are not increasing.
Sure. Sipiwe, what's
too much.
the alternative?
The alternative is to make GEMS an open scheme like all other medical schemes. Public servants can have a choice, which is their constitutional right. Have a choice to decide which medical schemes, what package they want to belong to. You know, give people their constitutional right to choose their preferred scheme. or you just close GEMS. That's all.
Gems will argue that they're still one of the cheapest medical aids around.
That is a fallacy. They are the most expensive today. They came as the cheapest. Today they are the most expensive.
Right, we're going to leave it there. Sipiwe Mbongose, thank you very much. Secretary General of the Educators Union of South Africa, saying scrap GEMS. We'll make it an open medical aid and allow people to make their own choices. What do you make of that? 086 000 2032. If you want to call, you can also send a WhatsApp on 0614 104 107. Coming up after the news, we're going to do our analysis of the Madlanga Commission. Kani Mapanga was watching what was going on at the commission, and then we'll get analysis of Brahmakotzi's. Can we say that he was lying, or at least questioning some of the things that he has been saying? We'll hear from a legal expert, Elton Hart, and get analysis of what happened yesterday. And then we're going to look at what's happening at the G20. John Stremlau will focus on this whole American situation at the G20. That's coming up at 7 o'clock.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Stories analyst hails a landmark G20 gathering in South Africa and Zelensky cautious on US peace proposals. A very good morning with the news. I'm Dino Mutau. International relations analyst Oscar van Heerden says the arrival of world leaders marks a significant moment as the G20 summit is hosted in Africa for the first time. It will focus on helping developing economies adapt to the climate crisis, transition to clean energy and cut excessive debt. Van Heerden says there is likely to be a declaration at the end of the summit.
They know that the Group of 20 is about the 20 largest economies in the world, but they are keen and they are sensitive enough to know that they cannot operate in a world without Africa, without the third world, and certainly without the global south. And I think because everyone has been on the receiving end of the bully called Trump, that they are going to rally behind South Africa, not that they are anti-Trump or anti the US, but they are saying that we are no longer going to be bullied, and we need to recognize that issues of sustainability, equality are actually important in the multilateral global system.
The US has sought to clarify its position on whether it has had a change of mind regarding attendance of the G20 summit in Johannesburg. The White House released a short statement saying its representative in Pretoria will attend the declaration handover ceremony as a formality. However, the United States says it is not joining the G20 discussions themselves. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
The ambassador or the representative of the embassy in South Africa is simply there to recognize that the United States will be the host of the G20. They are receiving that send-off at the end of the event. They are not there to participate in official talks, despite what the South African president is falsely claiming.
Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa spokesperson Vincent Makwenya says on X that Ramaphosa will not hand over the G20 summit to a U.S. envoy. Ramaphosa had said he welcomed what happened to be renewed interest from the U.S. to participate in some form. In other news, the Desmond and Leah Tutu Legacy Foundation and the Archbishop Desmond Tutu IP Trust will close today in solidarity with Women for Change, which has urged women and the LGBTQI+ communities to show their economic power by withholding work and spending. The foundation says gender-based violence remains hard to track due to widespread underreporting. CEO Janet Jobson says Archbishop Tutu was a steadfast ally of women's rights.
The Desmond and Leah Tutu Legacy Foundation and the Archbishop Tutu Intellectual Property Trust are joining the call for a national shutdown on the 21st of November in support of Women for Change's call that we take a stand on gender-based violence. For too many decades, gender-based violence has been the scourge of our country, undermining the lives, undermining the dignity, undermining the safety, undermining the equality of women in our country. It is simply a national disaster, and we need it to be taken seriously.
And further afield, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has given a guided response to new proposals drafted by Washington to end the war with Russia. Details of the plan have not been confirmed officially, but media reports indicate that it's heavily based on Russia's demands. The BBC's Jonathan Beale.
We are told US officials are working to an aggressive timetable. They want to go to Moscow with a deal within weeks. They know that President Zelensky is in a weaker position, namely because Russia is advancing in the east. Most of Ukraine is having power cuts. And of course, the government is mired in allegations of corruption at the moment. That doesn't mean, though, that either President Zelensky or the Ukrainian people would swallow these proposals. And I think their best hope now is that Europe will intervene.
In his nightly address, Zelensky insisted that his country needs a meaningful and long-lasting peace.
Since the first days of the war, we have taken one extremely simple position. Ukraine needs peace, and the real peace, one that will not be broken by a third invasion, a dignified peace, so that the conditions respect our independence, our sovereignty, and the dignity of the Ukrainian people. We must ensure these very conditions.
Recapping the top story at 7, international relations analyst Oscar van Heerden says the arrival of world leaders marks a significant moment as the G20 summit is hosted in Africa for the first time. Headlines at 7:30 for SFM News. I'm Dino Motaung.
OUTsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. You could spend 10 minutes trying to fix the office printer or get a 10-minute quote from OUTsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. For her 2025 Hyundai Exter, 65-year-old Helena now pays only 398 Rand a month. And for her 2024 Haval H6 4x4, 50-year-old Priya pays just 1,178 Rand a month. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Cricket, Kagiso Rabada remains a fitness concern ahead of tomorrow's test in Guwahati, where South Africa are chasing a first series win in India in 25 years. And we'll also bring you news from the Bok camp with coach Rassie Erasmus playing down the pressure as the Boks chase a Dublin breakthrough. All the details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Big problems on the Ekurhuleni side of Gauteng. G20 leader convoys are underway coming out of OR Tambo International Airport, so the highways being closed. R21 south at Atlas, N12 inbound at the Edenvale exit, N3 north at Galulis. Traffic being backed and stacked on all of those highways. This will just be a repeating pattern across the course of today. The Mike 1 from Boyson's heading up into Parktown. Very heavy, a crash at Jan Smuts Avenue causing that delay. Going into Pietermaritzburg from Ashburton, heavy queues around a broken down vehicle, one lane open. Breakdown on the N3 coming off Spaghetti Junction inbound to Durban at Sherwood causing delays, and Cape Town a crash on the M7 Jakes Kervell Drive at Beaufort Circle. Big delays coming off the N2 as you line up passing Langa into that Epping area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's 8 minutes past 7. John Gericke in for Tulas this morning. He's back again on Monday, 21st of November already. Keeping an eye, SABC News are covering the road closures that are going to be happening around Johannesburg. Just stay home this weekend. If you have to do something, do it. But yeah, I think I'm just going to sit at home, watch some rugby, watch some cricket. Yeah, it's one of those kind of weekends. It just looks it looks like it's going to be tough on the roads. Rob will keep you updated throughout the day, keeping you updated with what's happening there. But yeah, stay at home. Have a little braai by yourself. Why not? One of those weekends. And it'll be fine again next weekend. Let's see what's coming up on the show. We're going to get an update on the Madlanga Commission. Bra Mokgotsi was on the stand, and we're going to hear from Kenny Mapanga what he was talking about, and then get some analysis with Elton Hart in this half hour. G20 summit in Johannesburg. There's the big issue about what's happening with Washington, their refusal to attend. They will be there, they say, to receive the gavel. President Cyril Ramaphosa saying he won't hand it over to them. And he will, he was talking about the empty chair. And there's this diplomatic row happening at the moment. We're going to see from John Stremlau what all of this means when it comes to international relations. Then there's the 25 basis points decrease in the interest rates. We're going to hear what implications that has for the economy. And then towards the end of the show, we're going to focus on Hugh Fest. Looking forward to this. South Africans gathering together in a vibrant celebration of music, heritage, and creativity. We're going to hear from the event's co-organizer and the daughter of Brahu Masekela, Pula Twala. Looking forward to that conversation. That's coming up in an hour. Right now, it's 10 minutes past 7.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Usultu does not mind visitors, provided 3 points remain in KZN. However, Suelele refused to travel to Durban as tourists. They want nothing but victory.
This is the Midweek Premiership. Forever.
Amazulu FC versus Suelele FC on Saturday, 22 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then on SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Don Gerika on SAFM.
It's 11 minutes past 7 o'clock. Let's go to the Madlanga Commission. Bra Mokgotsi on the stand. A host of interesting things coming from him. Let's hear from Kenny Mapanga, SABC reporter who's been watching. What was the highlights, Kenny?
Indeed. Good morning to you, John, and to the listeners. I remember yesterday that intelligence will contact agent officers defense that he seemingly is trying to put before the Madlanga Commission to justify the conduct that you see being revealed through the WhatsApp exchanges between him and Madlanga, and of course trying to distance that possible alleged link to the minister. However, once again, it's on the pass before the commission yesterday. I think in the first second of him taking the stand, we saw the chairperson, that is Justice Madlanga. I think he started that line of questioning when he stated, because remember, Bamba Forte admitted but he claimed that it was in the execution of his duties as a quote-unquote operative. And he was questioned on that particular element. That was connected with both before the commission itself was also meaningful. That the making false, number of that are false. It's lying under oath, and he attributes to this, I guess, world of intelligence, how he has to state perceptions in order to complete his duties. His retired justice, by the way, conclusion that the oath is meaningless to him, and that explains the oath before the commission itself. It went downhill from there when the cross-examination continued, because a lot of the, I guess, attempts tried to do investigation into that Musicat Madala was the subject of his investigation, that the conduct points to something different. If you go to the WhatsApp exchanges, he wasn't able to explain why a person that you're investigating has to pay for your particular region, why they have to give you money, why they have to accommodate you in Camp Bay, why they would book flights and accommodation for what is clearly stated there as comrades, but you are stating that it's your co-handlers, people who are investigating him. None of this was adding up in the face of the allegation
about Mokhosi. Again, when the WhatsApp messages were going through about his interactions with Kat Matala, there's a point in which they are discussing a breakthrough with the minister through a signal message. But what Advocate Matthew talks to was able to do, he was able to bring out the text messages that he actually sent to the Kat Matala concurrently with those signal messages that he had sent to the minister. What was taking place there was he kept asking for the ISIS name was that they were allegedly posting the arrest of those PKK members. And that's why he allegedly sent that message of being a breakthrough to the minister. However, he denies that allegation that he conducted his observations with the Kat Matala. Oh, he was referring to was to the minister that signal act, basically the form of like clandestine thing. It's not able to be traced, but they were able to pull out the messages of the Kat Matala at the same period. So that the messages he gave PKK and Syria that they were arrested as a result of that false allegation or false case that they had received items allegedly assaulted before the Kat Matala during that December operation. And throughout the rest of the course of the day, the cross-examination followed a very similar pattern where it was just a number of or perceived, lies, and some lies that he admits to that were being exposed to the commission. The ultimate implication, John, not only as serious as a possible charge of perjury, but effectively what he does is that he renders his version completely implausible and puts the Ghana Commission in a sense where they're not able to accept his version and come to a conclusion to these allegations.
Does he have a justification for all of this deception?
Well, what is being stated here is that he was allegedly an operative and he had to deceive people in order to conduct his operation. But it seems to me that there is a bigger issue taking place here. Because essentially, if you think about it, the middleman, so it does seem through the evidence that this has the minister from the allegations that are actually at the core of the what it does is it actually goes in this process. Now the question arises why you would come up with such a tale about being an operative for the race examination. And it doesn't go in harmony with the evidence that you're seeing before the commission as well as the recordings by the himself, where allegedly giving all of these monetary benefits in order to safeguard his tax tender and of course allegedly the alleged presidential ambitions of Uhuru. Leaves actually more questions because one wonders why come up with this particular tale and what exactly are you trying to misdirect the commission from by telling this particular story?
And just to wrap it up, there were accusations of interfering in police affairs?
Yes, indeed. You saw that with the series of WhatsApp messages, it seems that Bamokhosi had inside information before things would be revealed, and he would also, recommend the investigations or send Concord judgments to say, oh, we can find Lieutenant General Khumalo this way. So essentially, this was a layperson giving advice to different individuals about how to handle particular police operational matters. And that is where the issue of why, if you were to get into this particular individual, why did you go to length to home? And then also, why were you coming up with different seemingly alleged plots to, interfere with the work of the PKK as well as the leadership? And you still couldn't provide a clear answer regarding that allegation. So his testimony actually leaves a lot of questions as answers to particular defense. So it's hard to say he's creating or conducting operations, but he clearly went far beyond the scope that he tried to paint before. But that the testimony is not done yet, and the cross-examination is not nearly complete. The commission will return on Tuesday, but he'll come at a later date to finish off that cross-examination and continue to take his version on whether or not it's credible.
Is there anything happening today?
No, the Commission will not be sitting today or on Monday. It's likely because of the G20 summit and all the participant work closures. So we'll turn on Tuesday with a new witness, and then the court is expected to turn a date to be announced by the Commission in the later.
Kenny Mapanga, thank you very much. SABC reporter watching what's going on at the Madlanga Commission.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief.
Well, let's get some legal implications of what all of this means with Elton Hart, as an attorney at UJ Law Clinic. Elton, thank you very much for joining us. Let's start with the lying under oath. Why would somebody do that?
John, if one looks at the testimony, that testimony is riddled with contradictions, and you don't know what was the guy's reasoning to go and make statements under oath and then come to the commission and then contradict those statements and even be as bold as saying, when I made that statement, I actually lied under oath. So it means that your evidence is, you cannot be trusted, even what you are saying to the commission now, because even if you did also undertake that, it will mean that you cannot also lie to us now. So your credibility is evidence that is bringing the allegations that is making about individuals, that credibility of that evidence just flew out by the door yesterday, and it started already the day before.
What are the legal implications of lying under oath, especially at this commission?
If you lie under oath, you can pursue perjury charges against you because you are intentionally, and this one is blatant intention. He knew exactly what he was doing when he made that statement, and his intentions was to mislead on the information that he has, and especially if he is in possession of information where a crime was committed, then he opens him up for criminal proceedings, perjury charges against him, and not just one, multiple perjury charges. But he did it on various occasions.
What does this mean for the commission? The challenges they now have to face to find out what's lies and what aren't.
And this is what I'm saying now. This is sort of muddied the water to the commission. Now, there might be truth in what he shared with the commission while he was testifying there under examination in case, under cross-examination, but there's definitely also a whole bunch of lies. Now, it gets onto the workload of the commission to actually disseminate from bad, and that's going to be now uphill battle. And I think how I perceive Brown Mokotsi in giving his evidence was all the other witnesses that came to testified in a way and gave evidence that speaks to a certain narrative. He's he's speaking to the one narrative and speaking to the other narrative, and it seems like he was sent there to actually put the commission on a wild goose chase and sort of mislead the commission to not get to the truth, what really happened in the police.
Do you think he's making a mockery of this commission?
No, definitely. Right. I think because you can see he's sitting there smiling, smirking all the time. This is not serious. This is something of national importance, national security. So you can sit there and make jokes about it, and it's not the way he's talking. Is actually he does think, and there could be no consequences.
But it's from the big things that we're talking about to the little things. His birth date and his service at MK or alleged service at MK. Why would he make these things up?
No, for me, that when we deal with a person like that, we just say this is a pathological liar. I mean, things that's immaterial to the issues in dispute. If you lie about such things, then surely you would lie about things that can have a serious implication for you, whoever your alleged handler is. So, obviously, you would bring evidence that would sort of make it difficult for the commission actually identify who was the key role players in doing what they did with INSAP.
Elton, explain to us from a legal point of view. He's making a lot of accusations. He's telling a lot of stories, but he doesn't have the backup, the paperwork or documentation. Just explain to us what that means and what implications that has.
No, in law, we've got a principle. He who alleged must prove. So he's making allegations. You can't just go and make an allegation and do not substantiate it with facts, evidence to back it up, and even maybe calling witnesses to come to corroborate what you're saying. So from the onset, whatever the allegation is, it remains allegation. It will be something that you try and put out there because want the public to hear that this information and try and say, because people like to use the court of public opinion to try and sway how people see this. But obviously, when it comes to law, allege, you have to prove. You can't just make allegations. You need to back up. And you can see most of the time when he's asked about something and scorned about a specific aspect, but then he can't remember.
And his reliance on his co-handler for information.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when he's telling you, he say, okay, but that meeting we didn't write down. That information I gave to my handler. Now, who's your handler? When is your handler? Where's the note that you gave to your handler? You cannot tell me you are so deep undercover operative that you would actually write your own name with an eraser so that nobody can see nothing. That is, for me, just mind-boggling.
What does the commission do with this kind of testimony, Elton?
I think the commission, it's not even worth the paper it's written on. It's not worth the paper because it's not helping us. It's actually just peddling more lies into the contradictions into what already exists. And we are trying to actually say, yes, the people, this is what this side is saying, this is what that side is saying. And we're trying to see, let's see where's the truth. Because we have to have both sides and the true side. So there's the three sides. And what, for me, in my mind is, and I'm now playing the devil's advocate to say that it seems like whoever sent Brown Mogotsi to come and testify at this commission, ending there was a clear intention to say, go and mislead the commission so that they do not have conclusive answers to what happened. If there is doubt, then they should rule in favor of the people that, or make a finding in favor of the people that are accused of wrongdoing.
Elton Hart, thank you very much. Attorney at the UJ Law Clinic, brings us to 26 minutes past 7.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, I forgot to mention we got Test cricket, Test rugby, and Formula One this weekend.
What happens in Vegas, we will tell you all about it, okay? As always, here, John, we are looking forward to this one. Not a great story, though, but the Proteas are stepping into the unknown in Guwahati tomorrow, chasing a first Test series win in India in 25 years, with the venue hosting its first ever Test and play starting early, and that's due to fading light conditions, which coach Pitt Botha says could swing early before turning into a spinner surface. But the big worry remains Kagiso Rabada. He's still being monitored and hasn't trained. A late fitness call will be made today. Under rugby, the Springboks have been dealt a blow. Luit de Jager's 4-week suspension stays in place. His appeal, arguing his arm made first contact with Thomas Ramos's arm, was rejected. It comes just a day after Franco Mostard's red card was overturned, raising hopes de Jager's might also get relief. But the appeals committee found no grounds to change the sanction. On to soccer news, TS Galaxy coach Adnan Beganovic hasn't ruled out offering Phakamani Mahlambi a contract, but he says fitness is a big hurdle. After years out of top-flight football, Mahlambi is still working his way back physically, and the coach admits that will play a major role in Galaxy's final decision.
He deserves second chance, and then I hope so he can improve. First of all, physically part, and then tactically, and then maybe if we do that, we can use him for the rest of the season, maybe for the next round.
Elsewhere, Birmingham City have unveiled new images of their planned 62,000-seater stadium, the centrepiece of a £1.2 billion sports cutout project led by Chairman Tom Wagner. The stadium will anchor a full entertainment precinct, including a dedicated women's venue. Motorsport, Aston Martin driver Lance Stroll has fired back at the Alpine rookie Franco Colapinto, feeling that the Argentine to focus on scoring his first win before calling him reckless. Colapinto, hugely popular as Argentina's only F1 driver, remains the only competitor yet to get off the mark this season. Golf, Christian Berg has surged into round one, and that's the lead at the Vodacom Origins of Golf final at Pazula with a superb 9 under 63 one-shot clear of Keenan Davidson, CJ Duplessis and Alexander Knapp. And finally, tennis. Argentina lead Germany 1-0, and that's in the Davis Cup quarterfinals after Thomas Martin Echeverry edged Jan-Lennard Struff 7-6, 7-6, saving a set point in the second tiebreak. Argentina are now one win away from their first semi-final since lifting the title, and that was in 2016. That's your morning brief sport. Check back. We'll volley back with more at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
With headlines at 7:30, I'm Dinamo Daung. A very good morning. Police visibility has been intensified at all major routes to ensure the safety of delegates and visitors arriving for the G20 Leaders Summit at the weekend. Meanwhile, as world leaders gather for the G20 Summit, the African Civil Society Organization is demanding real action on climate justice. And a 26-year-old woman arrested in connection with the fatal shooting at Inclueni Primary School in Tembisa is expected to appear in court today. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning as we come to you live from the highways at Ekurhuleni. This is what we're seeing right now, and we will see this pretty much throughout the day. World leaders continue to arrive into OR Tambo. We've just seen the British Prime Minister David Cameron touch down, him and others. And then, of course, they require transportation under VIP convoy circumstances away from the airport and through to accommodation centres, largely around sort of Sandton, Melrose, Rosebank. So what you've got at the moment is a major set of highway closures around that airport area. The R21 closed at Atlas towards the airport. The N12 to Joburg closed at Edenvale. The N3 North closed at Galulis. You can imagine the impact this is having, and you can imagine the anger amongst the motoring public with no notification about this. They just close them as and when required and backs everything up. And of course, if you're between two ramps, you've got nowhere to go for 30 to 40, 50 minutes until they've reopened the highway. So just we would urge again, check before you travel across Gauteng highways today, particularly around that Ekurhuleni side, around Waterkloof in Pretoria. You can run into horrible traffic on that N1 and around the Lanseria area as well. Just away from that, going up to Pietermaritzburg, the N3 remains heavy from Ashburton. It's a breakdown taking forever to clear around the Market Road exit. Going into Durban, we had a breakdown at Sherwood. There's now a crash. So the N3 in from Pavilion is heavy. The N2 north and south trying to come off through Spaghetti Junction onto that N3 inbound, really heavily backed up as well. Cape Town, the N7 Jake Scoville drive under pressure, a crash at Beaufort Circle at Epping. Once you get through that big queue, you stay in traffic all the way through to the roadworks at Fort Trekker Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning again to Ntauling Lachela. 25 basis points in Ntauling.
That's right, John. The Reserve Bank keeping rates, bringing them down to 6.75%, which in turn brings the prime lending rate at which banks borrow to 10.25%. Now, this move underscores South Africa's transition into its new 3% inflation regime. While the cut was somewhat expected, the significance lies in the signal. The Reserve Bank becoming more confident that inflation is settling at structurally lower levels, giving policymakers room to ease while still anchoring expectations around that new target. Now, October's softer inflation data, with core CPI dipping 3.1%, strengthened the case for another cut alongside a firmer rand and declining bond yields. Governor Lesetja Kganyago stressed that the new 1 percentage point tolerance band is not a license for broader inflation drift, saying the aim remains to keep inflation as close to 3% as possible. The MPC also tested two risk scenarios: a dollar rebound and keeping higher administered prices, both suggesting that rate cuts could slow if inflation expectations fail to adjust. Analysts, however, say the latest move supports confidence, lowers borrowing costs, and helps entrench the credibility of the new framework as the country works to lift growth towards 2% over the forecast horizon. For you and I, some festive cheer as you know we head into Christmas.
And we're going to get more analysis with Danny Dorfling later on in the show. And also more good news, S&P upgrading the banks.
Another vote of confidence by S&P Global, upgrading the country's major banks and insurers, signaling a broader re-rating of the country's financial system following that sovereign upgrade. By lifting the ratings of First Rand, AXA, Capitec, Investec, and Nedbank, S&P is lowering the risk premium that has kept funding costs high, with interest rates expected to further and Treasury targeting percent inflation. Ratings agencies see household lending gradually improving and banks delivering solid returns, projecting an average 16% return on equity in 2026, supported by diversified income and lower impairments. S&P also highlights a key differentiator, South African banks' minimal dependence on international funding, which shields them from the refinancing pressures facing many emerging markets. Insurers such as Sanlam, Old Mutual, Santam, and Liberty were also upgraded, reflecting strong capital buffers and disciplined management. While economic growth remains a constraint, the upgrade points to rising confidence in the sector's stability and its capacity to support.
And what does all of this mean for the markets?
Right? For the market, it still seems like we're still digesting the new local markets here at home, really being moved by international developments, particularly when we saw the rally somewhat taking hold and then faltering at the end of the day. With that, we saw Asian markets red this morning. They as negative, or rather as sentiment soured towards the end of trade yesterday. Japanese Nikkei and Hong Kong Hang Seng down to 2%. Meanwhile, in Wall Street, futures are in the green. This aftermarket close to the red as well. Traders there still testing and making of the September jobs report, that being as the main trend the government shutdown. Back at home, trade quite choppy on the back of a lower gold price, resulting in a 0.1% decline in the JSE All Share. The currency market was lower. The rand still on the back foot at 17.24 back. The dollar powering through as a Fed rate that start to diminish, and that of course is weakening the rand, weighing on the rand. Oil in the meantime also trending lower. With, on the back of that US pushing for the Russia-Ukraine deal. Brent is currently trading just above $61 a barrel.
Dowling Lachella, thank you very much. More business in an hour's time.
5 teams, 1 epic journey. No flights, no smartphones, just grit, maps, and pure determination. Race Across the World Season 3 is back, and the stakes have never been higher. From bustling cities to remote villages, who will conquer the chaos and cross the finish line first? Thursdays at 6 p.m. only on S3.
Yes. What's one more thing you can do for a child today? Could it be one clinic visit for their next vaccination?
Or say something that will really tickle my brain.
Maybe one healthy lunchbox snack to fuel their day.
Or say something that makes me feel good about myself.
Or one strong no to alcohol in your home.
Just one thing today could change our tomorrow. Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
South Africa is taking its place on the world stage at the B20 and G20 Summits 2025. Telkom is proud to stand with the nation, building a digital future that reaches every community. Through reliable fiber, mobile, and cloud networks, we're connecting families, small businesses, and young people to new opportunities. We're helping drive digital public infrastructure so services are easier to access for all. Telkom, the digital backbone of South Africa's future.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Take some calls. Let's go to Lala in Polokwane. What do you have to say, Lala?
Good morning, John. John, I am always having a problem with this group going, say, they are concerned about the GBV. However, they are not concerned about the call for prostitution to be legalized. Because to me, if you are saying a woman can be bought, that means a woman has been reduced to a thing, which I don't agree with. So if they are agreeing that a woman can be bought, but on the other hand, they are saying there is a GBV, that there is a double standard. They need to stop there. To start with, John, if you go around and look, on those people who are saying there is a GBV, they are also not sure of whether all the cases that are reported in the GBV are into GBV. I was in a taxi one day, and I just want to tell you this one as well. But
I don't really have time, Lala, but I think you've made your point. Sorry, I do need to move on. So, Lala, making his point. Thank you very much. Guests about GBV and prostitution. I have to have a long conversation about that. Let's go to Kirk in Cape Town. Go ahead, Kirk.
Good morning, John. John, is there any responsibility on the Commission to check the credentials of individuals who appear before it? With the Madlanga Commission and Mr. Brown Mahotsi, there are serious questions about his legitimacy as a layperson. I mean, I could be James Bond and appear there, making all kinds of claims and stuff. Is there any responsibility for them to check credentials of people?
From what I understand, his name has come up a few times, so therefore they wanted to interview him.
Okay, but is that...
And then it's now their responsibility to decide what he's saying, if it's fact or fiction.
Okay. All right. It's just there's so much mud being thrown.
There is.
And so
that's why these guys get paid the big bucks, Kirk.
Good luck. Good luck to them.
Thanks, John. Thank you very much. You were there, SAFM. It's 19 minutes to 8.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief.
All right, let's talk about the G20 summit. Leaders arriving, as you heard. Tambo busy at the moment. I see the British delegation has arrived. There is this confusion that is happening over the US boycott, this empty chair reserved for the incoming G20 President Donald Trump. South Africa is pushing this agenda: climate resilience, energy transition, multiculturalism, fairer global economic structures. But the US not getting involved. You know the reasons why they've mentioned they're not wanting to come to South Africa. Let's see what the implications are. John Stremlau is Wits University Honorary Professor of International Relations. John, there is this, I'm going to use the word confusion because there is this American delegation coming towards the end. There were conflicting news reports yesterday saying the US is coming. What is the current state of affairs?
Well, the current state of affairs is that I'm not a reporter, and I have a great respect for you guys who have to cover the breaking news. But the last report that we've seen, as Mark Billard, the ambassador representing the U.S. at the meetings, he will not be likely to be included in the high-level discussion.
There's this diplomatic row happening at the moment. President Ramaphosa said there's negotiations that Americans are coming. This made its way to the media briefing room in the White House, where the White House press secretary actually referring to President Ramaphosa as running his mouth off. What does all of this mean?
Well, your guess is as good as mine, but it is symptomatic of a Trump that is tactically unpredictable. And last Friday, he made a total boycott has changed his mind yesterday, and I'm trying to keep rest. I I think on a fundamental level, what's going on, I'm only speculating, but Trump wants to block any declaration that just maybe there would be a consensus for, and this is a world that's different for all, and South Africa and of universal human values, and so it's noble that Cyril Ramaphosa is doing. He's doing it in a practical, balanced way, and as a friend of all nations that are coming, and there really are quite an array. I mean, heads of state invited that with the regional and the EU and the EU heads, and then 20 heads of international organizations, development banks, and functional heads of the WTO and the UN Secretary General Guterres is coming, and it's really a starting South leadership.
How important is the U.S. in the G20?
Well, it depends upon who the Americans select. And that's the problem. I think that Trump is in trouble, and I think he's going to a footnote in history. But it is currently now his administration is raising such havoc in the world and tension. His involvement with the Epstein.
Is the G20 in trouble if there's no US, the G20 meeting? Because, as you said, there's this the policy document. They'll block it.
Well, Cyril Ramaphosa said that the and he's been very mature in rallying the rest of the world. I think it's time to move beyond China and the U.S. As global rivals, and against the American trade during the decade or so when the U.S. with the apartheid regime in effect, so I'm all for broadening out, and in the world of sovereign states, broadening out the participation in events really important for Africa and for the global South, which has not had a table.
There's some key themes: climate-induced disasters, fairer debt, financial clean energy transitions, ensuring African nations benefit from critical minerals. These are highlighted by South Africa, hosted in Africa. What does that mean for the world?
Well, it means a lot in a sense, raising the issues. But I watch debt finance question. I think that will be a test whether the G20 is relevant and go and very, but quality that South Africa and in states globally is got to be changed, and we have to have global growth and global interaction. And I'm all for South African leadership.
Does this open the door, the fact that the US isn't there, does this open the door for other nations to step up and say, we're the big boys now?
Yes, it certainly does. They're not the big boys, and not any illusions of it. I was in the UK yesterday and flew back, and that's but it's progressive than power and ruled and it was. It really changed during my lifetime, and I'm optimistic about even though we've got a lot of challenges.
Can we just quickly touch on multiculturalism? It's one of the highlights of the G20 as well. But with American policies, reduced foreign aid, unilateral tariffs, we've heard about that. Is multiculturalism still a thing?
Well, it's at the heart of the matter because nations create it, and they're pulling straws out of public. And Africa is the most real from Africa. And so this is a major breakthrough of science and normal forms of human values. And I think the South African Constitution represents the promise of a new world, a better world, but it's awful. That drives you crazy. So it's a messy process, but I'm hopeful.
John Stremlau, thank you very much. Wits University Honorary Professor of International Relations. What do you make of all of that? 086 000 2032. You can send a WhatsApp on 0614 104 107. Just a quick correction. Apparently, Rob was referring to the British Prime Minister, referring to David Cameron. It wasn't. Just a correction. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is arriving at OR Tambo.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Oh, that's an important correction. I got that one totally wrong, didn't I? Wow. Good morning. Yes, these G20 summit convoy closures around Ekurhuleni are causing major delays. The leaders continue to arrive at OR Tambo and then they're transported off into Joburg for accommodation or for meetings, whatever. But it just means that the highway networks across the Ekurhuleni area are closed and there's a major delay. I said to Ekurhuleni, can't we get the sort of pre-notification about this, like convoy leaving in 15, convoy leaving in 20 minutes? They said no, due to security concerns for the world leaders. So it really is no notification. These closures just go in. And if you're on those routes at that time, well, it's bad luck. The R21 south from Bobsfontein down to the closure at Atlas, very heavy. If you're on your way to the airport, that's major because you'll come off and hit some terrible traffic on the alternatives. The N12 coming into Joburg closed at Edenvale, so big backlogs into Boksburg. And of course, the very busy N3 route being closed down at Galuli's interchange, and that's a heavy queue all the way up from Germiston. So just make sure you've got plenty of time, and as we say, just check before you travel next few days. Just away from all of that, and that's actually quite enough. The N3, big backlogs up to Marlborough Drive this morning from Edenvale. There may be some closures up around that Marlborough Drive exit as well. And the Mike one from Boysons through Santon looking pretty heavy for a Friday. Going into Durban, the N3 at Sherwood, that crash still there. Big delays from Paradise Valley on the N3 inbound. The N2 both ways, under pressure into Spaghetti Junction, trying to get through and into that N3 as well. The truck at Ashburton through Pietermaritzburg is finally being cleared. That's released that traffic. And Cape Town, the big standout this morning really is Jakes Kervell Drive heading north from the N2. A crash just after Langa by Beaufort Circle, and then you're into the roadworks at Voortrekker Road through from the N2 all the way up through to Goodwood. It's heavy. And Baden-Powell Drive closed at Monwabisi due to thick sand this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This season, make Christmas magic together with Spar and Super Savings. Like 500 gram Spar cornflakes, buy 2 for 50 Rand, plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 2-liter Spar Extra Shelf Life Milk for $29.99, plus 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Price is valid from 10 to 23 November 2025. While stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Reigning champions, the Reds, believe a win at Anfield always brings great euphoria to their fanatics.
He finds a cross. He's down to Ekitike, and Kirkes has given Liverpool a lifeline. His first Liverpool goal, and it could be vital just before the break.
While the Trick-or-Treats are searching for a top-of-the-range strategy to defeat the Reds.
Driven in by Nico Williams. Well, it may have taken Liverpool 95 minutes to break Burnley down.
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling contest between Liverpool FC versus Nottingham Forest on Saturday, 22 November at 4:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Sindisiwe Chikunga, will on the 25th of November 2025 officially launch the 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children under the theme Litsema, Men, Women, Boys and Girls, working together to end gender-based violence and femicide. Tune in to The Talking Point, coming to you live from the launch at the Gallagher Estate in Gauteng.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
As you've heard in the news, there's a 25 basis points cut in the interest rate. Repo rate is down. Prime lending rate is down as well. What does all of this mean and why? Danny Dorfling is Head of Business Development at Moore Infinity. Danny, good morning to you. Thanks very much. It wasn't a surprise that this interest rate cut happened yesterday, was it?
No, not at all. And I think the unanimous 25 basis point cut to 6.75 is a significant development for three reasons. Obviously, firstly, it's the SARB's clearest signal yet that inflation is generally under control. I mean, October's 3.6% reading is well within the 3.6% band, although we've obviously now moved to the 3% midpoint. And second, the unanimous decision shows strong interest or internal consensus that conditions support easing, which is powerful for confidence.
Explain the 3 to 6% is where they are at the moment. Then there's this new target from 3%. So what do we see going forward if it is still 0.6% higher?
Well, I mean, I think for 2026, this sets the stage for gradual easing. So consensus among economists suggests that there's another 50 to 75 basis points of cuts throughout the year, which would bring the repo rate to around 6 to 6.25% by December in 2026. But, and this is obviously crucial, that path depends on inflation staying anchored at around 3%. So global conditions remaining stable, credit extensions actually accelerating. So this isn't a stimulus, it's normalization.
Yeah, explain that to us, because I always thought if interest rates come down, prices go up, leading to inflation.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. But again, we've sort of done the hard work controlling the inflation, and now we can carefully support the recovery. Businesses and households see this as permission to start planning for better conditions. Realistic. From an economic theory point of view, you're exactly right. An inverse relationship between interest rates and inflation, because as one lends more capital, there's more spending, etc. So, but that being said, from a business confidence point of view, in the next 6 to 12 months, this should obviously be improved meaningfully. There will be a gradual change rather than an explosion. And here's why. The rate cuts take 2 to 3 quarters to feed confidence through the economy. So we're essentially planting the seeds for harvest in the second half of 2026. That's why you're seeing this gradual rate easing now, and it's going to create economic growth of 1.2 to 1.6% next year, as predicted by the IMF and others.
What's happening around the globe? Are we keeping an eye on all of that as well?
Of course, and I mean, there's such a big emphasis on what the Fed is doing in America. And obviously, the basis point cut and global rate movements are absolutely critical to the SARB's flexibility. And right now, we're in a delicate moment. So the U.S. Federal Reserve dynamic focuses on those rate cuts from 0.75 to 4% in October, and markets are pricing a 70% probability for another 25 basis point cuts in December. So the Fed cuts, it reduces the interest rate differential between the U.S. and South African assets. And that makes South African bonds and equities relatively more attractive, and that supports capital inflows in the rand. So a stronger rand contains more imported inflation, generally electronics, which gives the Reserve Bank more space to cut. The risk scenario is if the Fed pauses and the Fed minutes show significant division among the policymakers, capital could flow out of the emerging markets, including South Africa, and the rand could weaken from 1720 to 1780 rand within weeks.
Yeah, you and I can talk about percentages and numbers and Feds and all those kind of things. But if I open the phone lines now and ask people what it's like, they are struggling. Food is going up. And I saw cereal has gone up 10.7%. It's still a difficult time out there.
Yeah, and let me give you a practical monitoring framework with specific indicators, right? If we watch CPI and core CPI, if the headline stays below 4% and core below 3.5%, the easing cycle continues. But you're correct in saying that there's obviously differentials and the consumer is struggling, and I think that's why it's such a great shift towards reduction of the rate, the longer run. And we also see government GDP stabilizing at 7.9%, which reduces risk. So from a boots on the ground perspective, and what we see with our clients from a Moore Infinity point of view is a family with a 1.5 million mortgage now saves approximately 188 rand per month, just on a critical point. But if we see another 50 to 75 basis point cuts in 2026, I mean, that's saving about 400, 500 rand, I mean, thousands of rands a year. So there is a persistent challenge. And South Africa is entering the first year with record debt levels. I mean, debt service consumes 70% disposable income for the families. That's up 57% just 5 years ago. So 95% of debt clients are now using personal loans, the highest ever recorded. The structural debt problem is not going to be solved by one or two rate cuts.
Donnie, the finance minister did say in his medium-term budget that there's going to be a little bit of pain, but things should start recovering. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree, and it's partly again to the debt to GDP stabilization, and that's significant. It means fiscal consolidation is on. Government is borrowing less, borrowing, and the Reserve Bank to keep rates high to obviously for fiscal profligacy. That's allowed the rand to strengthen below 17 rand and sort of made the SARB confidence to cut. So what fiscal policy should do now is to continue to consolidate discipline. So no profligate spending, no populist giveaways before election. Just focus on fiscal resources, growth enablement, infrastructure. Whether that be energy, whether that be logistics, whether that be water. That removes those structural constraints. And maintain tax collection efficiency to solve and avoid administrative price increases in terms of electricity, water, and fuel, which would then lead inflation from a supply push inflation. But what is the risk? So if government obviously backslides on fiscal, either increase social grants significantly without funding or allow state-owned enterprises to win deficits, the rand will weaken, one yields will spike, and the Reserve Bank has to reserve course on rate cuts. So fiscal discipline isn't nice to have, it's essentially for monetary. The alignment is, but it requires persistent execution. One good budget doesn't guarantee sustainability.
Donnie Dorfling, thank you very much. Head of Business Development at Moore Infinity, brings us to 8 o'clock.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Top stories: police visibility intensified for G20 arrivals and cocaine trade linked to Russian arms funding. With the news, I'm Dino Mutaung. A very good morning. Police visibility has been intensified at all major routes to ensure the safety of delegates and visitors arriving for the G20 Leaders Summit at the weekend. Traffic volumes have already started to increase. A few days ago, the South African Police Service actioned out a dry run to practice escorting delegates arriving at port of entry. Nomtsikelo Tabela reports.
There's a hive of activities around the Gautrain station in Sandton, with dignitaries arriving and checking into various hotels in the area. Law enforcement authorities and other private security stakeholders are also on foot monitoring the area to ensure safety. The G20 Leaders Summit will bring together heads of states from various countries to discuss economical, political and social initiatives. I'm Nomtsikelo Tabela, SABC News in Sandton.
Meanwhile, as world leaders convene for the G20 summit, the African Civil Society Organization is calling for urgent action on climate justice. The ACG20 network, representing over 80 organizations, has outlined 3 priorities: a clear fossil fuel phase-out timeline, immediate adaptation finance for affected communities, and debt-free climate funding to ease Africa's economic burden. Researcher Shalise Thomaseli warns that with climate disasters rising, vague promises are no longer acceptable.
If you look at some of the states that are involved in the G20, including South Africa and the US, both have recommitted themselves to continuing with the fiscal prediction. As they said, it's critical to developing trade and national economies. And so as long as you have this confusion between different state priorities around fossil fuels, going to be very problematic to finish your consensus on capital phase-off. Capital phase-off is not just about getting rid of it, replacing it with energy. We need to face this in a way that is oriented and community-led.
In other news, a 26-year-old woman arrested in connection with the fatal shooting at Ingweni Primary School in Tembisa is expected to appear in court today. Police responded to a double murder at the school on Tuesday. The principal and the administration clerk were found with gunshot wounds. The suspect, who's reportedly employed at the school, was taken into custody on Wednesday evening. She's expected to appear in the Tembisa Magistrates Court. SAPS spokesperson Dimakato Nebuhului.
The police have arrested a 26-year-old woman in connection to the double murder that occurred on Tuesday afternoon at Ingweni Primary School in Tembisa. The suspect, who's also an employee of the school, is expected to appear before Tembisa Magistrates Court on the 21st of November 2025, facing a charge of double murder. Police investigations are still underway on this matter.
We move to Limpopo now, where a well-known Likompo musician, Lehlohonolo Chalkwe, who's popularly known as Shebe Mabena, is this morning expected to apply for bail in the Polokwane Magistrates Court. Chalke is facing multiple charges, including one of attempted murder, malicious damage to property, and unlawful possession of a firearm. He allegedly shot and wounded a passenger in a car last month. The incident happened at Ladana in Polokwane. Rendani Ralepaso has more.
In his previous court appearance, Shebe Mabena's case was postponed for profiling, further investigations, and possible bail application. The court heard that Mabena has other pending charges, including another attempted murder, assault GBH, robbery with aggravating circumstances, amongst other, at Liwachom Regional Court. The court is looking at the possibility of joining the cases. For SABC News, I am Rendani Ralifasa in Polokwane.
Lastly, the National Crime Agency in Britain is warning citizens that anyone buying cocaine could be funding Russian arms manufacturers. Investigators have found a link between money laundering networks and a bank in Kyrgyzstan which helps Russian arms companies evade sanctions. The BBC's Daniel Sanford.
For years now, the National Crime Agency has been trying to undermine the work of two Russian-led money laundering networks operating in Britain. The networks exchange dirty money made from drug deals, the supply of illegal weapons and people smuggling for cryptocurrency. The NCA has now discovered that one of the networks, TGR, which is run by a man called George Rossi, had used a shell company to acquire a bank in Kyrgyzstan. The Karamet Bank has been helping Russian arms companies evade sanctions while they resupply the war in Ukraine.
Recapping the top story, the ZAR police visibility has been intensified at all major routes to ensure the safety of delegates and visitors arriving for the G20 Leaders Summit at the weekend. Headlines at 8:30 for SFM News. I'm Dino Montau.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Ready for the ultimate Black Friday deal? Get a quote from Outsurance today. And if they can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. With Outsurance, you can get monthly premium savings or at least 500 Rand cash. You've got nothing to lose. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, rugby, RG Snyman marks his 50th test as the Springbok chase their first Dublin win since 2012. And South Africa's Kasim brothers eye a Nkosi Cup hat-trick as the hockey side rides the World Cup momentum. Details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very heavy delays across the Ekurhuleni region of Gauteng as world leaders arrive into OR Tambo International Airport, and then they need to be escorted from the airport in towards sort of their accommodation or meeting areas. So very heavy backlogs around these highway closures. R21 South closed at Atlas Road. Major delays on your way to the airport. N12 closed at the Edenvale exit. Major delays from Boksburg. And the N3 North closed at Galulis. Looks like there might be a further closure up from Marlborough Drive going up to Buccleuch. So very heavy delays across basically all the highway networks around the Ekurhuleni region this morning. And of course, you won't be able to come out of the airport and get onto the R24 down to Galulis. Keep that in mind as well. Into Durban this morning, earlier crash at Sherwood, still causing big delays. This is just on the Durban side of Spaghetti Junction. So the N3 inbound backs all the way to Paradise Valley. Try the M13 through Sherwood. It'll be quicker. N2 South, quite a heavy queue coming from Mgena Road to off-ramp onto that N3 for a turn into Durban as well. Cape Town, N7 North, a crash at Beaufort Circle, roadworks at Four Tracker Road, very heavy. And if you're coming in from Elsie's River, collision on Avonwood at Holt Road, causing quite a big delay towards Epping. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes past 8. John Kerricker in for Tulas. Good morning to you. It's a Friday. Coming up in a moment, we're going to be talking about the women's shutdown planned for today. Thousands of women across the country will withdraw from daily activities to protest the ongoing violence. President Cyril Ramaphosa yesterday declaring gender-based violence a national crisis. We're going to talk to the director of WISE for Africa and a GBV activist. Then Hugh Fest returns on Sunday, the 30th of November. We're going to play Hugh Masekela's song there as well. We're going to talk about Hugh Fest with the co-organizer and the daughter of Hugh Masekela. And in a moment, Africa's entry into the G20. It's huge. It means so much more. And with the mining indaba coming up very, very soon, we'll sort of see what implications this has for the continent. In South Africa, we're very proud to host it, but diplomatically, what does it mean? Financially, what does it mean for the continent? We'll have that conversation in a moment.
This November, step into a world few have ever seen. From the smallest creatures on epic adventures in Big Little Journeys, starting 2nd November, to the frozen frontiers of our planet in Frozen Planet 2, starting 23rd November. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., discover beauty, danger, and the magic of life on Earth like never before. The best in nature dockies, only on S3. S3, open up.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actors-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
John Gericka on SAFM.
All right, Africa's entry in the G20 marked more than a symbolic inclusion. What does it mean in the big scheme of things with Africa being represented? Let's talk to Zaneep El-Sayed, Head of Government Partnerships Investing in Africa Mining Indaba. Zaneep, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. It said here it's a structural shift in the global order. What does that mean?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. I think that hosting the G20 has just placed global attention on issues that matter very deeply to African economies, right? South Africa is the only African member of the G20. I think the government's approach to it has really taken the continent with them.
The African Union is also represented in there. What are the implications of that?
We're seeing this at Indaba, especially through our kind of ministerial engagement. It's a really positive sign that the continent is really looking at regional integration at the core of its kind of future policy, especially around kind of natural resources and energy.
The one thing that's come out of this is Africa is becoming united when it comes to these big world events. How important is that? That it's not just a diaspora or a host of nations wanting their own thing.
It's the most important thing, right? Like partnership in this sense is strategic. It's not kind of ideological. It's really about negotiating power, especially when we're looking at kind of the huge focus on critical minerals right now and the real global attention. African countries negotiating as individuals are just never going to be able to kind of achieve the same kind of leverage.
Yeah, we've got these strong blocks within the continent, and those blocks are working together as one.
Yeah, it's an incredible shift, and we're seeing everything happen so quickly. Especially from a vantage point, mining it. I mean, it's critical.
Is Africa influencing outcomes though?
Yes, absolutely. I think like we've seen the outcomes of the meeting. We've seen a few real key themes emerge, particularly around, again, I guess I'll bring it back to minerals because that's my kind of place. But absolutely, I think that we're particularly around energy and the energy transition. It's becoming really imperative that we're approaching these questions from an African, because a realistic transition. It's African pragmatism. It's not delay, but it has to protect jobs. It has to maintain energy security. We have to look at the kind of practical considerations.
All right, let's talk about the mining then. One of the issues that is brought up all the time is we have all this wealth in the ground and the people aren't necessarily experiencing it. So are we going to see a change in that?
I think we're already seeing it. I think particularly around ESG, like the social license to operate, this is now becoming business as usual in terms of the way that global investment.
And we're so important when it comes to this AI drive now. We have these rare earths that people keep referring to.
Yes, and I mean, if we look at the different ways that AI is deployed, it's really interesting. I mean, around safety, around community protection, around even sort of blended finance, looking at kind of mobilizing the capital. Yeah, there's a real shift.
And is it see one of the worries is that it's just going to have these massive powers coming in and just taking the stuff and going and making things overseas again, and it's just extraction, not transformation.
This is where governance is crucial, right? This is the role of government to ensure that, you know, while all of this attention is happening, that it's benefiting and the communities.
Is Africa, or why isn't Africa manufacturing the things?
I mean, we're moving towards that. I think we have to be realistic about infrastructural capability, right? Like we can only do what we can do. It's such complex environment. There are so many things all need to happen at exactly the right time in exactly the right sequence. That we're definitely seeing kind of a real scaling up of infrastructure capability that's going to allow, especially African economies, to capture more of that midstream value, which basically means like, you know, not just sort of taking the resources out of the ground, but actually how can you look at refining? How can you look at raising the value?
Moving things, these are the two things you're raising a lot. There's the moving of products, moving of ore, I guess, and also the energy to be able to do all of that. Is Africa in the right place for that, or are we still a few years down the road?
I think in terms of policy, we're definitely in the right place.
Right.
I think that looking at sort of gas as a bridge fuel, we're seeing like really strong movement towards solar, wind, hybrid systems, increasingly like battery storage. I think that it's not about kind of planning every project while we're doing this. It's sort of making sure that we're laying that kind of groundwork for that transition to actually happen. It's really happening. Like we covered the new Seriti mine recently, where they are using kind of wind-powered energy generation to power the mine. So we're seeing really kind of innovative solutions, like the industry itself is solutions. It's not really waiting.
All right, looking forward to seeing what comes out of the Africa Mining Indaba. Investing in Africa Mining Indaba is happening from the 9th to the 12th of February down in Cape Town.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
To the phones we go. Angelo is in Cape Town. Morning, Angelo.
Morning, John. Hope I know you well.
Look up.
I'm just thinking about the G20, also looking back at the World Cup, the cleanliness of Joburg, the efficiencies, and the safety. I mean, why doesn't South Africa deserve that? Why can't we get that? I mean, whenever these events have been held, everything is just going smoothly, but when it's gone, you're just back to normal like chaos.
Yeah, we were just talking about that now. If there's a will, there's a way, right?
Exactly. So yeah, thank you, John.
All right.
That's just something that boggles my mind.
Angelo, thank you. Angelo,
Okay,
thank you very much. Angelo with his views. It's Joburg's looking pretty, and you're seeing it. And we've got the security as out there, as you heard Rob saying. All the major highways and byways have got the police out in force. It's possible. Take a couple of voice notes. 0614 104 107. Plenty voice notes on Brian Mokgotsi and the Midlanga Commission.
Morning, John. You know, the less said about Brian Mokgotsi, the better. And the other thing about all these commissions and this, I mean, there's a lot of money that is spent on these things. And I'm telling you, no one is going to go to jail. And then the worst thing is that the politicians will tell that the country doesn't have money. Meanwhile, they're wasting a lot of money over nothing. Thank you. Taru Dipluf.
We'll take more voice notes in your calls later on. It's 20 minutes past 8.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief.
Yesterday, President Cyril Ramaphosa formally declared gender-based violence and femicide a national crisis, one of the strongest statements yet from the government on the epidemic of violence facing women and children in South Africa. Advocate Brenda Madumise is the director of Wise for Africa and a GBV activist. Advocate, thank you very much for joining us. What does a statement like this mean?
Morning, and thank you for having me on this important day, 25th November. Yes, the president has said we use these words interchangeably for many years. He's moved from.
All right, we seem to have lost Brenda. We'll get Brenda back on the line. She just disappeared there. So let's take a voice note or two while we get Brenda back on the line. We'll continue that conversation about GBV.
Good morning, John and your team. You know, John, the fact that Brian Mokgotsi is still a free man is evident that one can lie under oath and get away with it. Thank you.
Morning, John. You know, John, this thing of people giving themselves an MK operative status in South Africa is becoming a problem because they think if they are former operatives of MK, they are untouchable. It's happening so many times with these comrades. That is the reason why Brian Mokgotsi say he came up with that story of being an.
All right, we're going to get hold of Brenda on that. While we're doing that, let's go to Mike in Newlands. Mike, what do you have to say this morning?
John, no, I'm very disappointed with this whole setup with G20. I think we're doing a completely wrong thing. I think we should be allowing delegates to come to South Africa, see South Africa for what it is, warts and all. I feel that, they're running around, they're all getting protection, they're getting nice roads to drive on. When they're gone, we're going to be left with a mess. I don't believe one job is going to be created when this thing is all said and done. One job created, and I'd like to meet the person who got it. And finally, the unions, the most unpatriotic tribe in this country, have just negotiated a 4 billion rand pay increase so that they would not go on strike in this country. All these so-called delegates are here drinking and plotting and doing whatever they're doing, making decisions whatsoever that's going to cut anything, but the main people of the world really running for the economy. So I just say, you know what, don't need it. I really do feel.
All right, Mikey Newlands, thank you very much. Let's go to that conversation again. President Cyril Ramaphosa declaring gender-based violence and femicide a national crisis. Advocate Brenda Madumise, sorry about you were cut off there. Let's start right at the beginning.
Yeah.
What does a statement like this mean?
So as I was saying earlier on, and thank you for having me, I think the president has used different words interchangeably over the years, right? We moved from a second pandemic, being a pandemic, being a scourge. He has used the word crisis before, right? Why the statement yesterday was precisely because there was pressure on him and his government that there is this pending protest today that demands that gender-based violence declared a national disaster. Right? So what we expected from the president yesterday was not for him to tell us that it's a national crisis. We know that it's a national crisis. What we expected from the president was to say for him, I am directing my government to look at declaring gender-based violence and femicide a national disaster. So that then you trigger the relevant provisions in the law to be able to do that.
What is today's protest, or are you feeling today's protest has got this ball rolling? It seems as if there's a lot of purple on my social medias.
Oh, no, it got the ball rolling. The fact that government had to request to meet with activists working on this campaign, right? So we have had 2 meetings with government on the national disaster, declaring a national disaster. So what we know as of yesterday, after the president spoke, the Minister of Culture has decided to work on a classification of gender-based violence and femicide as a national disaster. So they're working on what that classification means and it entails, right? So this separate movement has put pressure. We can't undermine it. And we did say to government yesterday that the protest will continue. It doesn't matter. Despite you making the pronouncement as the president, this protest will continue because we want to continue to put the pressure to make sure that the words come into action. That's the most critical thing.
What do you want to see happen in the next 6 months there?
So in the next 6 months, I want resources to be mobilized, the activation of that National Disaster Command Center that is going to have all the relevant departments in one room, focus on what interventions and responses are we putting in place to be able to address gender-based violence in its entirety. If we've got the criminal justice system that is working, what are those things that are not working in the criminal justice system correct? What are the strategies and responses that we're going to put in place in the next 6 months and put the resources to do that and do it effectively?
Just quickly, Brenda, I need to. It's the women that are protesting. Do you think the men who are
No, men are we must show solidarity.
Okay,
Men.
yeah, I was going to say that. Do you think the men who are perpetuating these crimes are listening?
You know, they get it, but they want to have this machismo, trying to have bravado. There's no need for that. There is. You are part of the problem and you're going to be part of the solution. So start with your power and control and focus on what is the issue here and why is it that we have the highest number of intimate partner violence in the country and the world over? Why is that in our homes we are not safe, right? And it's about the partnership that is there where the balance exists and persists. So what we expect from everyone else is, and including men, is that they need to reflect and see their role in perpetuating the violence and why the prevalence levels are this high in the country. So part of the solidarity, they must also start to reckon with how they change their behavior, the language that they use when they talk about women. You've had the social media going viral on 3 other men who were talking about women. If you look at the language that they were using and how they describe women, it's astounding. But it doesn't surprise me because the HSRC study on prevalence of gender-based violence has told us what the problem is.
Right, we need to leave it there. Advocate Brenda Madumise, thank you very much. Director of Wise for Africa and a GBV activist. Women for Change is happening today. # Women's Shutdown planned for later on this afternoon.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Morning again, Zai. Rudolf Gerhardus Snyman. We know him as the tall guy with a funny haircut.
That's right. But when you roll it out like that, John, I'm sure Ireland are wondering and getting a little bit nervous. But yes, let's get into that Springbok story. We're building up to the excitement. And so is Rudolf Gerhardus, or better known as Arge Snyman. He'll earn his 50th Test cap tomorrow, coming off the bench as Rassie Erasmus fields his strongest side for the Dublin showdown against Ireland. Now, South Africa haven't won in the Irish capital since 2012. Erasmus says it will take a technical, disciplined performance to break the 13-year drought. Now, in the starting pack, Ibn Etzebeth, Pieter-Steph du Toit, Jasper Visser, and Malcolm Marx return, while Kenan Moody replaced the concussed Kurt Lee Arendse, and I'm sure they'll be looking to make an impact, especially with Arge Snyman in his milestone test. Let's go to soccer. In the CAF Champions League action, Mamelodi Sundowns kick off their group stage campaign against Saint Eloi Limpopo at Loftus tomorrow. Coach Miguel Cardoso says the Brazilians are braced for anything from the volatile Congolese side, who famously knocked Orlando Pirates out in the prelims. Now, with last season's title slipping to Pyramids, Cardoso insists their opener has to set the tone.
First match of the group stage. Obviously, every match will have a story, but we have to write the right one on this one. First home match, good start is important, so we will work hard, and we've been working very hard since we finished the last match towards arriving tomorrow on the best conditions, on the best moment possible, and most of all, understand how to play against this team that has its particularities, its way of playing, its characteristics, and so that we understand how to exploit their lesson things and how to avoid that they can aggress us with the things that they have as most positive, let's say.
Women's soccer now. Mamelodi Sundowns ladies coach Godfrey Sapula has expressed excitement for having led the team to its 6th Hollywoodbet Super League title in a row. Sundowns only need a point in their fixture against City Lads, and that's on Wednesday, to retain the title. But with their opponents failing to honour the fixture, the Brazilians were awarded a walkover victory to claim the championship with a game to spare.
I'm really pleased and excited, to guide the team to retain a league title number 6 in a row. I attribute this success, to a lot of people that contributed, the club, the board, the chairman, but everyone in my technical team, the collaboration, everything, the work, everybody put in the effort, my assistant coaches, but most of all, the wonderful players,
And finally, we bring you hockey news. South Africa's indoor hockey stars are chasing a 3rd straight Nkosi Cup title next month, fresh off their historic World Cup bronze in Croatia. Mustafa Kasim, the tournament's player of the World Cup, and already on 118 goals from 47 tests, headlines a squad that's packed with returning medal winners. The tournament runs from the 11th to the 16th of December at the Wynberg military base, with New Zealand, Australia, Namibia, the US, and host South Africa in this absolutely world-class field. And that's your sport for now. On the morning brief, we'll shine the spotlight together this Saturday, 7 to 9 p.m. Looking forward to it. For SAFM, I'm Zai Khan.
For the headlines, I'm Dinoma Daung. A very good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa has warned South Africa is in the grip of a GBV crisis, echoing women's advocacy groups at the G20 Social Summit. In other news, South Africa's 2025 budget lowers the inflation target to 3%, a move experts say could cut grocery costs, ease debt, and benefit citizens. And a 26-year-old woman arrested in connection with a fatal shooting at Intuweni Primary School in Tembisa is expected to appear in court today. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very tough one through Ekurhuleni side of Gauteng this morning, and Joburg sections with multiple highways closed for these VIP convoys out of OR Tambo into towards Joburg. R21 being closed at Atlas Road. That's very heavy. The N12 inbound closed at Edenvale. That's badly backed up from Boksburg. N3 north from Galilees up to Marlborough, all shut there. Very heavy coming out from Germiston. And don't forget all the sort of ramps onto the highways are closed as well. And you've got motorists sitting in the most outrageous queues on the highways and then just coming off onto the obvious local alternatives and finding those jammed. If you're on your way from Pretoria to the airport for your own flight connections, you'll need a proper plan. And same if you're coming around from the sort of Alberton, Germiston areas up towards the airport, you need to come with a good plan to just avoid those highways that are closed. One option from the south would be the N17 and that the R21, maybe off of Griffith Road and in that way, or Yaldwyn and Griffiths, that sort of option through Boksburg. So just plan to avoid the highways. They may well be reopening and then they'll probably be closed again at various times across the day as the leaders arrive and need these VIP escorts. So plan ahead. That's what we've been telling you since very early this morning. Just some other issues. Heavy getting away from Soweto up towards Randburg. A crash on the M1 just by Gordon Road causing delays. Durban's N3 inbound. A crash at Sherwood. Still very slow getting through Spaghetti Junction on your way into Durban as a result of that. And Cape Town taking forever to clear up a crash on the N7. Jake Scoville Drive at Beaufort Circle. So still slow passing Langa, although it does look like perhaps it's moving, but you just stay in traffic because of the roadworks further up at 4 Trekker Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Ntaulang Lechela, good morning to you again. Walmart is competing with the big boys.
Yep, they're really trying to gain some market share here in South Africa, and they've officially stepped into South Africa's grocery battlefield, taking direct aim at Checkers' 60/60 with the launch of 60-minute deliveries from its first Walmart store at Clearwater Mall. Now, with food inflation still squeezing households, a Business Day article notes that Walmart is leaning on its global buying power to position itself as the low-cost kitchen. At the launch, it showcased a price comparison trolley undercutting major rivals, hinting that a price war could be on the way. The retailer is also targeting the premium end of the market, dominated by Checkers, Woolies, and Pick n Pay, offering fresh private label items and global import backed by an international fixed fast delivery. Now, Walmart won't say how quickly it plans to expand, but converting two former game stores is only the starting point. Its entry sets the stage for a new round of intense competition in South Africa's grocery sector. 60/60 now faces the most formidable challenger yet.
And I see Lewis are going to the Constitutional Court.
Yeah, this is a last-ditch attempt for the furniture retailer. It's looking to stop the proposed 3.2 billion rand merger between Pepco and Shoprite Furniture businesses. OK Furniture, warning the deal would give the combined group more than half of the country's furniture retail market and squeeze out smaller players. The move comes after the Competition Appeals Court dismissed Lewis's bid to intervene in the merger hearings, clearing the way for one of the sector's biggest transactions in about a decade. The Competition Commission, that is, has recommended approval with conditions, but Lewis's CEO, Johan Enkelen, argues the merger poses serious public interest risks, pricing, suppliers, and market risks. So Lewis has filed papers and will soon submit heads of argument as the Constitutional Court decides whether the challenge may proceed. Even as it fights the merger, Lewis is pursuing its most aggressive expansion drive yet. The retailer opened 40 stores in the first half of the financial year, including 28 real bids outlets and plans to further 20 before the year. Enkelen says the group is positioning for economic discipline and sees the credit-heavy business model as a buffer in these conditions. Strong first half sales across both traditional and specialist brands supported growth in the group's returns.
And what's happening on the markets this morning?
So we are in for a bit of a mixed day of trade here at home following global trade. It's a quiet day on the local front with no major company news developments. So we will be tracking what's happening in the US and in Asia. Against this backdrop, the rand taking some strain as the dollar strengthens. It's at 17.24 to the greenback. In commodity markets, oil prices extending declines for a third straight season as the US pushed for a Russia-Ukraine deal that could increase global supply. Back to equities, stateside things are looking up with futures in the green, monetary policy bets, and an overstretched tech valuation still under the spotlight.
Lastly, in Asia, stock on track to close the week in negative territory, and this despite some positive economic data coming out of the region.
Darling Luchela, thank you very much. Have a lucky weekend.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Coming up in a bit, we're going to talk about Hugh Fest. It's on the 30th of November. First, let's go to calls. Vuyo is in Cosmos City. What do you have to say, Vuyo?
Morning, John. It's a very quick point. I think with what we've seen with the G20 and how quickly they, fixing the road, literally ripped apart a few kilometers of highway and they fixed it within a few weeks. So it shows that the government has the problems. It's very sad to hear. Even though you had one earlier on with what's the woman, the woman with the violence. It's funny how everything has to go through meetings and commissions and there's such a long process. But show that people, things in a very and a very want to. They don't want to, then obviously then go through. I think, and I think we need to be responsible now. We need to keep the standard. We should that
Yep,
somehow.
exactly that, Vuyo. And I was just about to say that they've shown, or the leaders have shown what they can do. And in 6 months' time, if they're not doing it, you go, "How's it, guys? Look what you did here. You can do it again. Let's see it in action."
Good morning, John and your team. John, the fact that Brown Mohot is still a free man is evident that one can lie under oath and get away with it. Thank you.
Cooperative. You remember during Zuma?
All right, so this was the voice note that was cut short a little earlier. Did you a technical issue? Let's play it again.
Morning, John. John, this thing of people giving themselves an MK operative status in South Africa is becoming a problem because they think if they are former operatives of MK, they are untouchable. It's happening so many times with these comrades. That is the reason why Brian Mokotsi say he came up with that story of being an operative. You remember during Zuma, there were young men claiming to be Umkondo Sise, dressed in MK camouflage, because they think if they are MK operatives, they are untouchable. This thing must stop. Anonymous.
John, and to the SAFM listeners. John, this is Robert KZN Mutu. 40 is just fumbling all over the place. He expects us to believe all this hearsay stuff he's telling us. Hearsay, no evidence, no paperwork, no phone screenshot, nothing. We must just believe what he's telling us. I once again pick up mail from Mr. Mkwanazi. All of them. Spia, Tunu, and now Mkhotsi. I did not make sure. Thanks.
Good calls. Israel in Mpumalanga. You want to talk about the G20, Israel?
It's a chance to talk. Good morning. I just want to find out if there's no official that is going to attend the G20 at the summit. So now, which country that is following the US to host the G20?
After the US?
Yeah, after US it is.
I don't know the answer to that. Why do you ask?
No, I was thinking if there's no one that's going to attend as the MC chair there, then they can pass to another country that is going to follow after US. It's simple as that.
I don't think that would happen. The US is still going to host it. I think it's just the formalities that won't be done officially.
Easy.
Yeah.
Oh,
and there is the local diplomats that are going to go there, and they were saying that they will be there to receive the handover of the presidency.
Oh, okay.
It's just Trump that's not going to be there. And they're not going to get involved in all the discussions, but they will be there for the closing.
Okay, no, understandable. Thanks.
All right, we'll keep a close eye on that, though, Israel. This is an ongoing story that's changing all the time. Zoe in King Williamstown, go ahead.
Good morning, John. Yeah. First, I want to comment about the commission and
Mm-hmm.
what is the commission. First, I just want to explain, like, stop between after I talked about the
Excellent.
coincidental yesterday.
It was done on purpose. No, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not coincidental. It's coincidental.
Okay, what do you have to say?
I didn't know it was as if you had that I'm going to be taking this. I didn't know. Now, I thought the commission and then I'm a member of the and I'm a member of the as one of the people who was against the commission that was setting up this, and now he came to the member of the board, which is the important was something exactly after the important country. Now, what we need to do in this country, we must learn, take a leaf from this canal. This is only said, there's everything must be done taking from one canal. It has not been there from canal. Canal is one of the greatest guys ever in this country. Just thankful to God. Word Zulu means luck. Thank God for people like this.
All right. Zoe in Kiwellerstad, thanks very much. We're going to go to Greg in just a moment. In fact, we're going to Greg now. Greg, what do you have to say?
Good morning to you. Look, I'm from the 80s, 90s era, and I was at the Magoo's bar when Robert McBride and his friends from the MK bombed that bar. So the lawlessness is becoming ridiculous and outrageous. I mean, people are getting criminal records, and they're in government. Mr. Stena is in personal. Yeah, I'm not even going to go anymore. But yeah, thank you. I just wanted to mention about the story. How does this guy even end up in Parliament with his criminal record and his criminal history? I don't know. Have a nice day, brother.
Greg in KwaZulu-Natal just ranting. Tando in the Eastern Cape. Go ahead, Tando.
Hey, John. You know, it's the first time I agree with Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is like that reality TV conduct.
What are you agreeing with?
Because I agree that we don't belong in the G20.
Why?
Why? It's because look at our economy. Look at unemployment. Look at the look at the. I mean, with these guys, they think frolicking around the world, going to this conference, going to that one, looking important. They think actually that's for what? They're not solving problems that are in the country. I mean, for instance, we've got ambassadors. They're not supposed to be frolicking around the world. They're supposed to be sending ambassadors. We even have.
Hold on, that's exactly what ambassadors do. They go around the world.
No. I mean, the Ramaphosa's, the ones who are supposed to be solving problems.
So how do we raise? Hold on. Then how do we raise issues at a G20 if we're not there? I mean, this is the very thing that Ramaphosa is saying, that the USA is going to miss out by not having a seat at the table.
No, it's just like the World Cup. They wanted some exotic place to do a different thing. They don't take us seriously. Africa is not being.
But that's exactly the point, right? So now they will take us seriously because we have a seat at the table. We're not just a seat. We're the president. We're leading the conversation.
No, I don't buy that. I mean, we have an office in Eritrea. What a useless country. Instead of just having one office in Ethiopia that can look at that region, what do I have? We waste so many resources. That's why quality. These people, they don't get their heads around that. They think it's looking important. Reaching this one, going to.
You don't think that this can make those changes? If you get foreign investment and you get the G20 countries to invest into the continent, it'll make a positive change?
It doesn't matter because they will, just as they are always on the track, they will know where to go. They know the situation in South Africa. This is like a show and finish. So for me, I'm not impressed. I'm not.
All right, Nando, not impressed. What do you make of that? 086 000 2032. Some more voice notes for a couple of minutes.
Good morning, John and the listeners. I've got one question today. How is Jacob Zuma allowed to send 17, 18, or 20 people out of the country for military training in Russia? What are we busy doing? How do we allow him to do that? Now the people are stranded there, and still no comment from the government. They say they're busy investigating it. But for what purpose will he send people to Russia to train them? How is that allowed? Thanks for a great show. Saki Rafferty.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's been a heavy one through Ekurhuleni, and the delays will continue for some time. The closures, some of them look like they've been reopened, but they can be closed again at any moment's notice as groups of world leaders fly in and they need to be escorted out of OR Tambo. That's where the highways get closed at this hour as we come to you live. The R21 with restrictions around Atlas Road. That's a very heavy backlog through the Benoni exit. If you're on your own way from Pretoria down to the airport, you'll need to come with a plan there. The N12 is being closed off at Edenvale, so very heavy coming in from Boksburg towards that one. The R24 between the airport and Galulies remains closed, fully closed down by the looks of things. And the N3 with sporadic closures going up through Galulies, that's still very heavy from Germiston. So it very much was an elongated set of closures today. Yesterday we saw sort of 30 to 40-minute closures, then reopening for a couple of hours, then closing again. So what we've been saying from very early on this morning is if you're traveling those highway networks on the eastern side of Joburg, just make sure you are checking your sort of real times before you travel, because you can run into some major problems. The other area, just keep an eye on is around Waterkloof, the R21 and the N1 south are subject to closures, and possibly the N14 and Malabongwe Drive, as we saw yesterday with some arriving guests as well, closing those roads. Into Durban, the earlier crash at Sherwood, and the breakdown seems to all be sorted out. There is still a broken down vehicle, but the big delay coming in from sort of Paradise Valley Pavilion, that's all eased up. Cape Town, the N7 North stays heavy on the run through to Goodwood. You've got that left lane permanently closed for roadworks there. Heavy queues right back into the Epping area, and the N2 inbound still pretty busy for a Friday. In fact, there's some big volume around for a Friday going into Cape Town. N2 from Bunga Avenue through to Hospital Bend, the N1 slow from around about Century City through to the city centre, and behind that, Marine Drive quite heavy coming onto the highway through Pardon Island. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
Sanlam Alliance, proud lead sponsor of the B20 Summit, the official business dialogue forum of the G20, and for 2025, a historic first on African soil. Sanlam Alliance isn't just writing a check, they're helping to drive real purpose-led conversations on the future of business in Africa, financial inclusion, job creation, education, and resilient growth. By supporting this historic summit here in Johannesburg, Sanlam Alliance is putting Africa's voice at the heart of global policy. Sanlam Alliance, empowering generations to be financially confident, secure, and prosperous.
John Gerika on SAFM.
Big festival coming up on the 30th of November. South Africans getting together for Hugh Fest. It's in its 12th year. Fourth time it's going to be at the Nirox Sculpture Park. Pula Twala is co-organizer, also the daughter of Brahu Masekela. Pula, thank you very much for joining us. In fact, we're going to get her in a moment. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. A good lineup as well. Soul Brothers, Mikasa's going to be there. The Brothers Move On. I Complete, dynamic artistry to an already stellar program. So hoping to hear from Pula in a moment. While we're doing that, let's take some more voice notes that have come through this morning. Plenty on what has been happening at the Madlanga Commission, but one or two on the GBV issue as well.
Hi, John and your team. Gender-based violence. I just hope one day we will get men together and hear what the root cause of gender-based violence is. Because this thing is not one-sided. Even though women are victims, these things were one-sided. We are missing the point. There is something that you are missing. The campaigns, the national disaster is not going to address the root cause. It's dealing with the symptom. Anonymous.
Morning, John. John, this is a very, very important
commission, Madanga Commission. So as also is involved South African police must be arrested. All those who are speaking lies, talking lies, framing and all, they must be arrested because there's a law inside, and there's also there are people who have to be enforcing the law. Green men, something that was in Maris.
Let's go to AB in Durban. AB, what do you have to say?
Hey, John, sometimes it's very confusing to understand why certain things happen on the world stage. For example, the Cold War between the US and South Africa. It's important to understand the context, the background of why we are at this present stage. The wheels really came off when South Africa decided to take Israel to the ICJ, accusing it of genocide. It was huge, a shocking move, and guaranteed to have serious repercussions from Israel's partner in the genocide, that's the United States. It would be an understatement to say that Donald Trump is not a particularly bright guy. And given that he has received over $200 million from the U.S. Adelson family, strong supporters of Israel for his 2 election campaigns, well, he was expected to act against both South Africa and the ICJ. He put the chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, under sanctions, strongly condemn South Africa. The person who has the ear of Trump is a South African-born citizen of the U.S., one Joel Pollak, a strong Zionist and a possible candidate for U.S. ambassador to South Africa. He is outraged about South Africa's ICJ action. Of course, we have the white supremacist Elon Musk, who is also close to Trump. So the idea of white genocide was fashioned into a huge stick to hit South Africa over the head. My point, John, is that it was the ICJ case that put South Africa in the dog box. And so everything unfolded after that to where we are now. The U.S. Keeping away from the G20. Just one last point. Our Naledi Pandor's visa to the U.S. has been revoked, and it's very easy to guess why. He's an outspoken critic of the genocide.
Well, AB, thank you very much. AB in Durban with his views. You with SAFM. It's 5 to 9. Masekela, Hugh Fest happening on the 30th of November. His daughter and co-organizer of Hugh Fest is Pula Twala. Pula, going to be a big party on the 30th.
Yes, definitely. A good day to you and all your listeners.
Tell us why Hugh Fest exists.
Hugh Fest exists because Hugh himself created it. Hugh loved collaborating, and it was known widely with young people, his peers, and also older people. So he wanted a festival that allows for the stage to be that diverse, to have like an intergenerational conversation, and for there to be a celebration which allows family, which is not in one genre. So when he created it in 2013, we lost him 5 years later in 2018. Continued with the project that he started that he found important. And it has just been a joy and a pleasure to not only be able to continue this legacy, but also to, do the work that he did around us and, come from learners to people who are able to continue the work that he had started. And doing our best also to put together the kinds of lineups we imagine he would have loved. And that is why we have continued the festival.
We'll talk about the lineup in a moment, but it's what this festival embodies. And it's not, as I say, it's not just music. There's a whole lot more to it, isn't there?
Yes. I think the thing about it is that it's a cultural celebration, and it is being organized by the Human Secular Heritage Foundation, which he also continued. So he also had a passion for making sure that we keep our heritage alive, our indigenous music, our cultural music, so that we're not only stuck on the most popular genre that is on now or in pop culture, but and are also able to bring those artists together, to have the Soul Brothers and Shekinah on one stage. That's something he used to do back in the day when we had Wittenberg and Oliver Mtukudzi on stage. So it's a conversation about our culture. It's a conversation about young and old being together. It's a conversation about families, about who we used to be and what we bring forward today.
You've billed it as a breathing love letter to South Africa and the continent. In what way?
I think Hugh himself was a kind of person that we life. He was a human rights activist. He was a lover of people. And so in everything that he did, I spoke about the collaborations, he brought a lot of what he had learned and interacted in the continent into South Africa. Like we knew about, his collaborations with Fela, with Angelique Kidjo, and it's something that he brought into South Africa. And it's also something that we've always known him as Hugh to have stayed true to himself. The whole world knew him as a South African, and he played and spoke South African music wherever he went. So I think that love letter to South Africa is exactly that it has stayed true to what he represented. At no point was he ever not himself, was he ever not, an activist for Africanism and an activist for being a South African, and also being aware, staying true to your roots, being aware of your language, of your people, of the fact that none of it belongs to you, but it was given to you by this continent.
Give us details, Pula Twala. Where can we see and who can we see?
So on Sunday, the 30th of November, we'll be out at the Cradle of Humankind at Nairobi Sculpture Park. And we will have on the stage Shekinah. We will have the Soul Brothers. We will have Madela Kunene collaborating with Lucille Kaba. We will have The Brother Moves On. We will have Mikasa. And we will have E-Complete. So we're very excited because it's a good mix of young and old. We'll have Play Africa, who will be looking after the children at the festival. So do bring your children, bring your mothers, your grandmothers. It's a family day out in the park.
Well, Twala, thank you very much. Hugh Fest organizer and also the daughter of Brahu. Thank you very much to the morning team. Thank you very much to Mdu, Stanza, and Melissa for producing the program and for Push the Buttons. I'm John Gericke. Tulas is back with you again on Monday morning. Have yourself a great weekend.
Top stories. Ramaphosa sounds alarm on GBV crisis and US tags nations for rights abuses. With the news, I'm Dino Motaung. A very good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa has warned that South Africa faces a gender-based violence crisis, echoing calls from NUMSA, Women for Change, and other advocacy groups. Speaking at the closing of the G20 Social Summit, Ramaphosa highlighted the urgent need to tackle GBV and femicide. Today, women's rights organizations led by Women for Change will stage a national shutdown to protest rising violence, urging South Africans to show solidarity by changing their profile pictures to purple. NUMSA spokesperson Pagamile Hlubi-Majola stressed that GBV must be eradicated immediately.
According to the statistics which were released by the police services, 5,000 murders that were recorded were averaging 62 per day. Of those killed, 837 are women. And basically, break that down, it comes to 9 women being murdered a day. At the same time, we've got very, very high levels of sexual violence against children. And it's very clear to us that we are in a crisis. The president has declared this violence a national crisis. We're interested to hear more details of what it will mean in a president.
Gautrain management has assured delegates and visitors to the G20 Leaders Summit of a smooth, seamless travel experience. The landmark summit, set to kick off in just hours, will bring together heads of state to discuss key economic, social and political initiatives. Nomsikelelo Ntabela reports.
Gautrain says security has been tightened as the safety of dignitaries is their top priority.